Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Fem Naruto Was Madara's Girlfriend Part 2. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
6 months later, if you just walked into the Uchiha clan enclave, the mood would have been a little bit darker than usual. This was different from how the sharing and using clan had always made people feel. It had been 6 months since Uchiha Izuna died, and it seems like he took the sun with him when he died. You could say that Uchiha Izuna is like the son of the clan because she is always laughing and making jokes. He helps keep the clan's spirits up. The clan is born and raised to fight, and when they are sent on missions, any of them could come back in a pine box at any time. Madara had almost completely cut himself off from the rest of the Uchiha clan. In fact, he would only talk to or hang out with Sayo, Yuki, Uchiha Hideki, Haru, and Sana, who is currently unconscious. Both Uchiha brothers agreed to work together to get the eternal Mangekyo, but that doesn't make Madara feel any better about his actions, even though he knows that Izuna wanted it, and that it is the only way to protect the clan. In the Uchiha clan archives, the eternal Mangekyo, the highest form of the Sharingan, wasn't really described or even talked about much. Madara had to figure out what he could on his own, with Sayo's help. But even so, the redhead's eternal Mangekyo wasn't fully grown. Madara had once wondered what side effects the wielder might have once their eternal Mangekyo was fully grown, because the clan archives said something about that. But it wasn't very clear. When it comes to Haru, Madara and Sayo are both busy with that little toddler. The first few days after his father died, the little toddler wouldn't leave his mother's side and wouldn't even eat. Sayo had to use every bit of her persuasive skills to get the little toddler to eat or go to sleep. In fact, if anyone tried to take Haru more than 10 steps away from Sana, who is currently sleeping, the little toddler would scream so loud that everyone would hear. After a few months, it got easier, but Haru would only let Madara and Sayo get close to him. If any other adult tried Sans with Yuki, they would hear a child scream. Infirmary, Uchiha clan's stronghold. Sayo was sitting next to her best friend's bed while Haru was sitting next to his mother. She told Sana that she had gone to a village near the water country today. The table next to Sana's bed was covered with colorful stones and pebbles, one for each day that Sayo and Madara had been there, which was almost every day unless they were on a mission. It's a beautiful village with the most beautiful waterfall I've ever seen. The villagers are having trouble with some robbers who seem to be rogue Ronins, so they hired us to help. Since the threat level wasn't that high, Hideki-sama sent me out alone instead. Madara wasn't too happy about it, but he's never liked me going on a mission without him. He's kind of overprotective, isn't? Sayo laughed without any humor. Then she got serious, clasping Sana's limp hand in her own and making small circles with her thumb. Things have been different between us lately. It started when Izuna died. Maybe we've been spending too much time together because we're Haru's guardians. I feel like I care about him more than just as a friend. I feel sad when he's sad, happy when he's happy, and want him to share his troubles with me when he's having trouble. Sayo gave a small chuckle. If you were awake right now, you'd be teasing the hell out of me and saying, "I told you so." For as long as I could remember, you and Izuna have both been trying to set Madara and me up with each other. The first birthday I spent with you two is proof of that. Sayo smiled and took out a small oval-shaped light blue pebble from her pocket. She put it on the bedside table with the other pebbles. I got this from the village I went to today for my mission. When you wake up, I'll take you there. It's a beautiful place, and I know you'll love it. Sayo sighed when Sana didn't say anything. Please, Sana, will you please wake up? If not for me, then for Haru. He needs his mother. Madara and I are not his parents, and we don't want to be. Haru needs his mother. Madara needs his sister-in-law. And Sayo choked back a sob. I need to be with my best friend. Please, Sana, wake up. Sayo turned around in her chair and saw Madara standing behind her. He looked very serious. Madara looked at his sister in unconscious Law's body lying on the ground for a while before he sighed and turned back to Sayo. He tipped his thumb over his shoulder and said, "Father's calling. We have a job to do." Sayo and Madara were walking through the Fire Country's trees 2 hours later. A scroll with the mission details was safely tucked away in Madara's pocket, and another scroll written by Uchiha Hideki had a message for the leader of the village they were headed to. It seems that the leader of a civilian village in the eastern part of Fire Country was an old friend of the leader of the Uchiha clan. He had written to Uchiha Hideki at some point in the past to tell him that several people from his village had gone missing. People in his village were worried and scared for their family and friends. Since then, they have been wary of people from other places. He asked Uchiha Haiki for help because the situation has been getting worse recently. The trip was mostly quiet, and when the two finally came down from the trees, they saw two guards in samurai armor holding spears in front of elaborate-looking black gates. When Madara and Sayo came into view, the two guards pointed their spears at them and looked suspicious. "Stop. Say who you are and what you're doing in Shongtsu village." Madara and Sayo looked at each other, and then Madara sighed and reached into his bag to pull out a scroll, which he held in his right hand. Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Sayo are from the Uchiha clan. Izanagi Suibiki-sama sent them here to look into the recent disappearances in Shongtsu village. The guard on the right, who looked a little bit friendly, said, "Suibiki-sama," and he lowered his spear a little bit. "You must be the guests he was waiting for. Can we look at the scroll?" Madara nodded and then gave the scroll to the guard. He was smart enough not to go up to them because there is so much hatred and suspicion in the village that it's hard for the ninjas to breathe. Sayo was quiet as she carefully looked around the village from where she stood. Compared to most civilian villages, the village seemed to have a lot of money and be quite big. It also had some nice-looking brick houses instead of the wood or stone houses that the Uchiha clan builds in their clan enclave, since brick is hard to get. She had also heard Madara say that Shongtsu village was the main place where bricks were made and sold, which is part of the reason why this village was so rich. Sayo felt two chakra signals at the same time. These were two chakra signals that she knows well by this point, and the redhead frowned to herself. What in the world are they doing? There's no doubt that it's not good news for them. Sayo then said something, which made Madara and the two guards look at her. "Madara, two of them are coming at 2. Madara turned sharply at the same time as two sets of light footsteps came from behind them. Behind them stood two shinobi, one who looked to be about 18 years old and the other about 17 years old. They were both wearing red and blue ninja armor. Madara growled when he saw them and knew who they were right away. Sayo didn't bother turning around because she knew who they were when she first felt them and didn't trust herself not to attack the older of the two when she saw him. The one who looked like he was older stepped forward. He was holding a dark green scroll and keeping a wary eye on Madara and Sayo. "This is Senju Hashirama and Senju Tabarama from the Senju clan. They are both here because Nabiki Mishio-san sent them on a mission. House of the Village Chief, Shongtsu Village. Thank you for making it here so quickly," Izanagi Suibiki said to the two Uchiha ninjas a half hour later as they sat in the formal Caesar position in the sitting room of the village chief's house, and a maid brought them each a cup of tea. The village chief was a man with dark brown hair and green eyes who looked to be in his late 30s or early 40s. He wore a black kimono with silver linings that looked expensive. "I wouldn't have bothered Haiki-san if I could handle this on my own, but things have been getting out of hand lately." Sayo nodded and said, "Yeah, Haiki-sama said something about that. Can you at least start from the beginning?" Suibiki nodded and put his cup down. "Very well. It all started about 6 months ago. As you know, Shongtsu village is famous in Fire Country for making bricks for buildings and delivering them to people who wanted to buy them. But because the materials to make bricks are expensive, only the wealthiest people could afford it. That's probably why, despite being a civilian village, we are so well off here," Madara asked with a frown, "and the two from the Senju clan. Who hired them?" "I heard them talking about a man named Nabiki Mishio." "Oh, Nabiki Mishio is the doctor in the village," Suibiki said with a small, wan smile. "Like me, he has a lot of power in the village, and he is a kind man who always smiles at the children. He is a great help to calm the children's fears about all the recent disappearances. He is probably worried about the village, too, which is probably why he hired those two from the Senju clan. I'm sorry about that, as I knew there was bad blood between your clans, but please bear with them for now. I'll let you both go wherever you want in the village, but I'm afraid that because of the recent disappearances, the villagers are a little on edge and wary of strangers, so they won't be very helpful or friendly to you. I'm sorry in advance." Madara and Sayo began their investigation by asking the village chief for a list of the people who had gone missing, along with an estimate of where they might have gone. Then, they sat down on a bench in the village square and talked about what they knew. Sayo looked back and forth between the two lists with a frown. "Did you notice that the disappearances always happen near that forest in the back of the village?" she asked, glancing at the forest where Shongtsu villagers were not allowed to go because it was said to be full of dangerous animals. Madara sighed. "Yeah." Before Sayo could say anything else, someone else's voice cut them off. "Long time no see, Madara-san." Both Uchihas quickly looked up and glared at the person who was talking, who turned out to be the older of the two Uchiha brothers. Madara made a tight fist with the hand that was resting on the bench he was sitting on. He squeezed it so hard that a crack appeared in the wood of the bench. Madara hissed the name Senju Hashirama like it was a curse. Sayo put one hand on his shoulder and said, Madara. This calmed him down, but he still looked at the Senju brothers like he wanted them to die more than anything. The redhead turned around and went back to the Senju brothers. Do you need anything? Well, as you've probably heard from Suabiki-sama, we're also here to look into the series of disappearances. Senju Tobirama muttered nervously, scratching his cheek with one finger. Madara's look was poisonous. We didn't find much on our own, so we thought that 4 heads might be better than 2. Sayo gave the younger Senju heir a frown. Then you're suggesting a temporary ceasefire, right? She asked, and Tobirama nodded. At least until we figure out what's going on. Tobirama nodded. You're right. Sayo didn't say anything for a while. She doesn't like the Senju at all, especially after what happened to Sana and the last fight between their clans. But on the other hand, they do need help with this mission because Sayo has a feeling that something doesn't make sense. As ninjas, they'll do whatever it takes to finish this mission, even if she doesn't like the people she has to work with. There are also some people in the Uchiha clan that she can't stand, but she has to work with them anyway. The Uchiha and Senju clans are still enemies, so this temporary truce will only last as long as this mission does. Sayo turned towards Madara. Madara was quiet for a while as he stared and glared. Fine, he finally said, but only while this mission is going on. Hashirama said, I wouldn't have it any other way. Sayo sighed and stood up, then pushed the 2 lists she was reading into Madara's hands. He just looked at her. She said, I'm going to look around the village a little bit. Will you read through the lists for me? Maybe you'll notice something I missed. Madara nodded before his eye twitched when he saw that Senju Tobirama was following Sayo down the road, and the redhead didn't say anything to stop him. A small voice in the back of his head also told him that out of the 2 Senju brothers, he should choose the younger one because he wasn't the one who made his sister-in-law sick. Senju Hashirama then sat down on the bench next to Madara, taking the seat that Sayo had been sitting in just moments before. Madara turned and glared at his sworn enemy, his fingers tightening around the 2 lists that Sayo had almost pushed into his hand earlier. He growled, Did I say you could sit there? Hashirama smirked. Still as angry and mean as ever, huh, Madara? He asked, and Madara gave a low growl. Calm down, would you? I won't attack you or anything during this mission, so don't act like I'm about to stick a kunai in the back of your head or something. Madara muttered, It wouldn't surprise me if you did. He turned his attention back to the 2 lists Sayo had almost forced into his hand and tried to ignore Senju Hashirama. That girl you're with, Hashirama said suddenly, and Madara turned sharply to look at the Senju heir, who was grinning in a way that Madara didn't like at all. Her name is Sayo, isn't it? Madara asked, What does it matter to you? He said it in a way that warned the Senju heir that he would be in a lot of pain if he even touched one hair on Sayo's head. Hashirama must have heard that warning tone, too, because when he answered, he seemed kind of amused. Not much, he said, but Madara didn't believe him in the least. Also, that girl is good enough to keep up with me, which is something no other Uchiha could do before you. She's a seal's master, isn't she? I think she's the first one, which is quite an accomplishment since seal's knowledge is hard to get. She's been getting a lot of attention from the Senju clan and all the other ninja clans lately, especially after our last fight. Madara gave his sworn enemy a hard look. He really didn't like the way Senju Hashirama looked at him or the way he spoke, and it made him uncomfortable that he seemed to like Sayo. Don't go near her, he hissed. Sayo and Tobirama walked in before either of them could say anything else. The redhead was holding a list and looking at it with a critical eye before she looked up. We haven't had much luck either, she said, waving the list around. Tobirama nodded. But I've heard some news I didn't expect about the town doctor and his apprentice. This made Hashirama stop and stare. He repeated, Michio-san has an apprentice. Tobirama nodded. Yeah, I was surprised too, Tobirama said. That apprentice wasn't seen much, it seems, because he was always in his lab at Michio House and studying, reading, or even experimenting. Madara shivered on the inside. That came out kind of wrong. Hashirama raised an eyebrow as he asked, and Sayo replied, The doctor and his apprentice just moved to this town a year ago. Madara's eyes got big when he understood what Sayo meant. The disappearances started 6 months later. That's too much of a coincidence, don't you think? Hashirama can only stand there and look. What do you mean the doctor is involved? He's the one who asked us to look into the disappearances in this village. Why would he do that if he's the mastermind behind it all? To take the doubt away from him, Tobirama said. He then gave a sigh. Nyai-san, I didn't want to believe it either, but now he seems like the most suspicious person. But, Sayo cut in and said, look under the bottom. It's an old ninja saying. Also, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be lit, she sighed. she said. This village Mura o Shongtsu means vanishing village, which is a good name. Hey, Sayo sighed. She said, think about it. There's more to this whole thing than meets the eye, and I don't like the feeling I get. The day after, Shongtsu village. At the break of dawn, Uchiha Madara could be seen making his way to a single field in the village, where the children of the village used to play. Because of the recent disappearances, the field is almost empty now, so Madara can do what he needs to do. The other three have gone to different parts of the village to gather information and intelligence. Madara didn't like that Sayo was working with Tobirama because it probably wouldn't be a good idea to put her with Hashirama, but he knew she could take care of herself. Madara sighed, bit his thumb, got some blood, and wiped it on the summon tattoo on his left wrist. Then he said, Kuchios no Jutsu. When the smoke cleared, there were two summoned creatures standing in its place. A red phoenix with a few golden feathers in its wings that was about twice the size of a normal eagle, and a cream-colored weasel that was about the size of a normal-sized dog. What's going on, Madara? At first, the phoenix spoke in a mythical musical voice. Madara sighed. I'm sorry to have both of you here at this time. Kusei and Sango, he said. But I need your help. We have a mission, and I kind of need your help. Sango, can you smell out which trails lead in and out of this village the most, compared to all the other trails? He turned to the weasel, who nodded and ran away right away. Then he turned around and went back to the phoenix. We can't go into the forest at the back of this village, but it's the only place left to look, so can you take a look around it for me? Kusei nodded. Right now, Sayo is gathering information. I don't know what she might find, but anything you can find in the forest might be useful. Kusei raised an eyebrow in a phoenix shape. Sayo, she made a joke. Oh, you must be talking about the traveler. Madara can only stand and look at this strange word. Traveler, he asked again. He is very sure that Kusei has never met Sayo before because he rarely calls for her because Kusei is mostly used to spy. Kusei thought for a moment before looking Madara in the eye and saying, well, it's not something I should tell you, but maybe I should. You've heard of her summons, the legendary night wolves, right? They rule over both darkness and light. Madara nodded. He had seen Sayo's summons before, and even he had to admit that they were beautiful, elegant, and a little scary. Sayo's contract with the Night Wolves was a legendary summoning contract, along with his summoning of the Phoenix. The Night Wolves are close friends and allies of the Phoenix clan, and they told us a bit about their first summoner. Kusei paused. Uchiha Sayo is a traveler. She is someone who is not really from this time. Madara can do nothing but stare. Huh? A time traveler. A time traveler. He said again. Does that mean she doesn't really belong to this time at all? If so, that means she came from another time. How the hell did she do that? Well, yes, she does go back in time, Kusei said. And I think it's one of her eternal Mangekyo's abilities, since one of them is to manipulate space. That's why she can open portals and appear here and there in the blink of an eye. Time travel is all about bending space, but she probably went a little too far with what she was trying to do, and ended up here. Madara slowly nodded as he began to understand what Kusei was trying to say. That explains why she lost her memory, he said, and Kusei nodded. She said, that's right. She can't remember her own past because that's the price she has to pay for being able to travel through time with the eternal Mangekyo. One of the things her eternal Mangekyo can do is create dimensional rips. Madara sighed. He grumbled, this is just great. Then he stood up. I'm sorry to bother you, Kusei, but can you get going? Kusei nodded before taking off, and the phoenix was gone from view in a short time. Before Madara can go back to the village to find out what's going on, he hears a loud poof and sees a cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, he saw a handsome wolf about the size of a fully grown dog with golden eyes and smoky gray fur standing in front of him, wearing a red bandana with the tribal markings of the night wolves on it. Madara knew right away who that wolf was because he was one of the wolves Sayo had called most often, along with Tsuki, Teiyu, Shiri, and Kane. Even though they are combat wolves, the 5 wolves were mostly used by their summoner, Sayo, as messengers, trackers, or even guards, depending on what Sayo needed them for. Did Sayo send you? Madara asked the wolf as soon as he got close enough to look him in the eye. The wolf gave a nod. I'm Adatori, he said. Sayo sent me here to get you. She said you should go back to Suabiki House Sama's because she found out something new about the mission. House of the Village Chief, Shongtsu Village. Sayo, the Senju brothers, and Sango, the weasel that Madara had called over a while ago, were all sitting in the sitting room of the village chief's house. They all had serious looks on their faces, and Sayo was reading a few lists while occasionally frowning to herself. Madara asked, what's going on? As Adatori walked up to Sayo, his claws occasionally clicking on the ground as he laid down, put his head on his paws, and seemed to go to sleep. Sayo's answer came from Tabarama, who said, "Some information. We met your summon when we were checking out the village's entrance, and we all came to the same conclusion." Oh, Sayo looked up from the list she was making and said, "Yes, we should start at the beginning. First, it's about that doctor's apprentice. He seems to be around 18 or 19 this year, and he's an orphan boy that the doctor took in a few years ago when one of the shinobi clan's battles nearly destroyed the village he lived in. He seems to have a lot of talent in the medical field," Tabarama said, "but he likes to take things apart and try new things more than he likes to heal. That's why no one in the village saw him unless they went to the doctor's house, and even then, they probably wouldn't see him unless he showed himself." "Who is he?" "Kakuzu. No last name," Hashirama answered. "Now things are starting to get interesting." "Oh?" Madara raised a brow. "Yeah," Sayo nodded, looking up at Madara. "I've asked Adatori to follow smells at the entrance to the village. With all the disappearances lately, I wasn't expecting much, but Adatori picked up one scent almost right away, and it led from the village to the forest more than any other scent." Madara asked slowly, "And whose scent is that?" He had a good idea who it was. Sayo sighed. She said, "Two smells. Adatori and Sango both knew it was that doctor's, Nabiki Michio's, and I have a feeling the other one belongs to that Kakuzu guy. But I don't know for sure." Tabarama sighed and said, "All the clues pointed to them both being the bad guys. But the village won't accept it unless we catch them in the act. Should we go?" Sayo pulled out a 3-pronged kunai with tiny seals on it and said, "Yeah, and I think I might have a chance to use these, too. I hadn't had a chance to try them out yet, and this might be the perfect time." When Madara saw that kunai, his eyes got bigger. He had seen Sayo make a few of these over the past 6 months, when she started learning more about space and time manipulation because she could move through portals, and he was curious about what they were for. Sayo had said that she was working on a new jutsu with almost godlike speed, so Kakashi thought that the kunai might help her with this jutsu. And that probably explains why Sayo had been asking her wolves so many questions about how they got to this world. "Is that it, Sayo?" Sayo looked at the kunai in her hand with pride and said, "Yeah. Finally, I'm done with my jutsu. I'll call it the Haraishin." Tabarama felt like he was going to throw up, and his brother turned deathly pale next to him. Madara grimaced, but he tried to hold his breath as long as he could so he couldn't smell that strong smell. Sayo, who was standing next to him, had her hand over her nose and was looking around with a grim face. As ninjas, it wasn't too hard for the 4 of them to sneak into the forest without anyone in the village knowing. As soon as they entered the forest, Madara's phoenix flew up to them and told them that she had found a strange building in the village that smells strongly of blood and gives off a feeling of unease. The 4 ninjas knew there would be blood, but they didn't expect this. Blood was all over the stone walls and floor of the room they were in. There wasn't a single spot in the room that wasn't covered in blood, and there were seals written in blood all over the walls and floors, which all 4 ninjas could see right away. The seals looked pretty complicated, and Madara knew that some of the symbols on the seals were the symbols for heaven and earth, and some were the symbols for the 5 main elements. Sayo was almost fuming with anger as she looked at the seals next to him. She knew what those seals were as soon as she saw them, because she wasn't called a seals master for nothing. She didn't think anyone would be so crazy as to do this to themselves, though. "Kami-sama," Tabarama muttered, his eyes wide. Sayo closed her eyes and crossed the room to get to the door. She said, "Let's go. We might still make it if we leave now." Tabarama asked Sayo, "What do you mean?" As the 3 boys followed her, Sayo said grimly, "I knew those seals," and then she threw open the door. It opened with a loud crash, and the 4 ninjas walked through a dark passageway with almost no light. But it didn't bother them. Those are the forbidden seals of heaven and earth. They are used in a special ritual to gain a certain power. That power is immortality. But the ritual requires the blood and lives of young people, including children. I didn't think anyone would be crazy enough to actually use it, because if the seals are drawn wrong, the user could die. How could anyone be sick enough to sacrifice children for something like that? The other 3 were nothing. "So you mean?" When they reached the end of the passageway, Sayo nodded, and she stopped in her tracks with one hand on the door. The ceremony had already been done. She unlocked the door. The first thing all 4 ninjas saw was a dark room with a dark-skinned boy sitting in a chair with tubes going in and out of him. His head was covered by a metal helmet of some kind with wires running to a machine not too far away. All 4 ninjas recognized the man in the white coat as the Dr. Nabiki Michio. He was laughing hysterically and tapping on the machine. When the 4 ninjas walked in, he looked up. Hashirama said, Dr. Nabiki. Sayo said, I knew it. Madara was so angry about what Sayo had said earlier that his eyes changed into those of the eternal Mangekyo, but they weren't fully grown yet, so they looked like a three-spoked pinwheel in each eye. You're too late, Michio said with a smirk as he turned to face them and tapped a button on the machine. His apprentice then stood up and tore the metal helmet off his head, revealing a pair of glowing yellow eyes and what looked like stitches on different parts of his body, from which black tendrils grew. The ritual is over. I am the first person to make an immortal. All of you ninjas would bow down to the first immortal. Man, there aren't many people who can make me mad like this guy, Tobirama muttered, keeping a wary eye on Michio. Madara let out a low growl and kept an eye on Kakuzu, who had black tendrils coming out of his hands. When Madara said, Senju, both Senju brothers turned toward him. Take care of that crazy scientist. Sayo and I will deal with the other one. Both of the Senju brothers nodded and then looked back at Michio. Tobirama's sharp eyes saw that he was wearing a silver chain around his neck. On the chain was a black raven with its wings spread out. Hashirama hissed angrily and held out his right hand. Soon, tree branches and vines started growing out of the walls and floor, which caused several cracks to appear. We may be ninjas, and we may be paid to kill people, but we would never kill children. What you've done is sick beyond words. I have no desire to fight either of you, Michio said with a casual shrug. I'm more interested in that Uchiha girl over there. Both brothers turned to where the two Uchihas were fighting Kakuzu, but they had to cut off the black tendrils on Kakuzu's limbs that would have killed them both if they didn't do it first. Uchiha Sayo, is it? Where are your eyes looking? Tobirama hissed as he pulled his Raijin sword from a summoning scroll and put some chakra into it. The green-blue cylinder in his right hand turned into an electric golden blade. We are your rivals, and I can promise you that we will be a better match for you. Michio went on as if Tobirama had never said anything. That girl and her Daojutsu, the eternal Mangekyo of the Uchiha clan and the legendary Eye Daojutsu of the first shinobi, are interesting. Very interesting. I would love to try them out. When Madara and Sayo, who weren't too far away, heard what Michio said, they both turned to him in alarm and then back to Kakuzu when another attack came at them, making them both jump backwards. What in the world? What did he do to find out? Madara grumbled as he jumped backwards and made a series of hand seals, ending with the tiger seal. He then inhaled and exhaled, saying, Katen Ryuka no Jutsu. As he did so, when he opened his mouth, a huge blast of white-hot flames shot out and burned everything it touched. And when the fire went out, both Uchiha's eyes got bigger when they saw that Kakuzu seemed to be mostly okay, except that he was a little burned. Sayo was shocked. No way. How could he still be alive after all that? You're fine, Kakuzu said calmly as he looked at his burned pants. But it's too late. You see, after that ritual was done, the person who received it would be practically immortal and immune to all attacks for a few months during their new birth. In other words, they would be at their strongest during those few months. Once those few months are over, we need to find new hearts to live longer. If you know a lot about seals, Uchiha Sayo-san, you would know that. Sayo growled, how annoying. As her eyes spun into her eternal Mangekyo, she didn't have to worry about the Senju brothers seeing her Daojutsu because she was facing away from them. Madara's eyes widened as Sayo's eternal Mangekyo turned into a pinwheel in her left eye, and a star in her right eye, showing that it had fully grown up. You make me sick. Before Sayo disappeared in a red and black flash, Kakuzu could hear the kunais landing all around him. Madara's eyes got bigger as Sayo attacked Kakuzu so hard that he could barely see anything. Sayo seemed determined to hit every part of Kakuzu. Sayo was moving so damn fast that he couldn't see anything but blurs. Sayo is the only one who could have thought of this kind of jutsu, which changes space and time. When he told Sayo that day, 6 months ago, to get faster, he didn't mean it in this way. Madara blinked when he heard a loud thud and saw Kakuzu thrown against the wall next to him. Sayo was standing in front of him with a very angry look on her face and one of her special kunais in her hand next to Kakuzu's neck, which was close enough to crack the wall. Sayo is usually pretty uncaring, and she rarely loses her temper. But once she does, she turns out to be pretty scary. Sayo hissed, any last words? Her eyes flashed with anger. Kakuzu smiled and showed a row of white teeth that looked like shark teeth. He said, just one. Boom. Madara's eyes grew wide with fear before he lunged at Sayo, knocking her to the ground and rolling away from Kakuzu. Sayo, and just in time, it seems, because there was a loud explosion from where Sayo was standing just before, and a big fireball cooked the whole area of the dark room where Sayo and Kakuzu had been standing just before. On the other side of the room, both Senju brothers turned around and had to cover their faces because of the hot flames. Madara and Sayo then squinted when they saw Kakuzu's clear shape come out of the flames, seemingly unharmed, and Madara closed his eyes. I really didn't want to use this, but I have no choice. I don't want to die from being too stubborn, and I won't let you hurt Sayo. He then opened his eyes, and his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan changed from a tri-pinwheel shape to a pinwheel shape in his left eye, and a star shape in his right eye, becoming a fully matured eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Before everyone's eyes, a strange shape started to take the form of a huge ethereal skeleton standing between Kakuzu and the two Uchihas. The spiritual being was dressed in an ethereal robe and wore a mask made of ethereal light. Between the teeth of this huge monster, two scary golden eyes began to glow. Madara said, "This is one of the most powerful Uchiha Mangekyo techniques." "The Susanoo," he said. He then turned to Sayo, who was still in his arms, and he almost blushed when he saw how they were holding each other. "Sayo, I'll get Susanoo to guard you." "Get him." Sayo nodded and stood up. She threw another of her three-pronged kunais at Kakuzu, and then vanished in a red and black blur. Not even a minute later, Sayo's kunai didn't seem to be able to cut through Kakuzu's skin, and she grunted. What he said before, was it true? Then until Kakuzu's new birth period ended because of that ritual, he was almost immune to all of their attacks. If that's the case, how will they ever beat him? "I've told you it's useless," Kakuzu said with a smirk as he reached out with his hand ready to rip Sayo's heart out of her chest. But the Susanoo warrior who wrapped Sayo in its ethereal body stopped him right away. "That is very interesting. He was right about you after all. Raven's Gate was right about you the whole time." "What?" Sayo can only look around. "Raven's Gate. I guess I should go back for now," Kakuzu said. "But I look forward to fighting you both again, Flash Goddess and Hanu no Madara. One day, we'll meet again, and when we do, your lives will be mine." Then he was gone. Sayo thought, Flash Goddess, huh? And then she smiled to herself. I like the name. After that, there was a very long pause before Madara left Susanoo. His eyes changed back to their usual onyx black color, and he sighed. He then looked at the brothers Senju. "Hey, how are things over there?" Tobirama shouted, "We're done," as the lightning blade in his hand disappeared. He looked at the many roots and tree branches that had tied the crazy doctor so tightly to the trees that he was almost suffocating. He then sighed and said, "Can't say he put up much of a fight, though. Now that that's done, I guess the mission is done. Outskirts of Shongtsu village. Country on fire. Then we'll go back to our clans," said Tobirama. At the time, all four ninjas were up in the trees, ready to go back to their own clans. "Working with you guys has been a lot of fun. Maybe we'll get to work together again someday." Sayo had a laugh. She said, "I wouldn't count on that. This time, we may have worked together for the mission, but in the end, our clans are still rivals." "Well, a person can always hope," Tobirama said with a smile. "We'll get going." Before the Senju brothers ran off into the trees, both Uchihas gave a nod. Sayo and Madara then looked at each other. "This mission is a bit of a surprise," Madara said slowly, and Sayo nodded to show that she agreed with him. "And that Kakuzu guy, I don't think we're done with him yet." Sayo frowned and said, "But there's one more thing I don't understand. Is that Dr. Nabiki Mishio? How did he even find out about my Sharingan?" Even in the Uchiha clan, not everyone knew that my Daojutsu is a mix of the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. You, Sana, and Heiki-sama are the only ones who know, and I doubt that you three would tell anyone else. And also Gate Raven. Sayo looked at Madara. "What are that and those?" Before she replied, Madara frowned for a long time. He said slowly, "It looks like someone has been messing with us." Sayo sighed. "No shit." Then Madara sighed. "Let's go home and worry about this when we get there." After that, he left. Sayo sighed and turned around to look at the gates of Shongtsu village before she followed Madara. Not even a few seconds after they left, the image of the village seemed to ripple and bulge. Instead of Shongtsu village, there was a deserted village that looked like a ghost town, with broken and destroyed buildings, trash all over the ground, and broken gates. And the sign at the front gates that said Mura o Shongtsu soon turned into a picture of a black raven with its wings spread out. 2 years after that small mission with the two heirs of the Senju clan, all the wars and fights between the different shinobi clans, big and small, were getting worse every day. It was especially bad for bloodline using clans like the Uchiha, Hyuga, and Senju, who were surrounded by enemies from every direction. So, it was especially bad for the smaller and lesser-known shinobi clans. During the many battles between the different shinobi clans, Some of these clans almost went extinct. Every day, more and more bodies were being brought to the cove in the Uchiha clan enclave where the clan's dead were kept. Most of the Uchiha clan's battles with their enemies were with the Senju clan of the forest. Both clans were equally strong and had the same number of people, and the Senju clan lost just as many members as the Uchiha clan. The war between the two clans was also hard and tiring on the clan members, especially Hideki, Madara, and Sayo, three of the best combat shinobi in the Uchiha clan. The first is the head of the Uchiha clan, who already has a scary reputation. The second is the heir to the Uchiha clan, who is slowly becoming well known among shinobi. The third is the tactician and the first seal's mistress in the world of shinobi. Infirmary Uchiha clan hideout. Sana. The war and battles with the Senju clan had been getting worse recently. Sayo sighed and ruffled her best friend's hair off her forehead. Since Sana has been in a coma for 2 years, her once dark brown, shoulder-length hair has grown out and is now almost as long as her waist. Slowly, the number of dead has been growing. And bringing a child back in a body bag is even worse. I really wish there was a way to stop all of these battles. It wasn't your fault, and you know it, a grave voice said. When Sayo turned around, she saw Madara walking toward her. He looked tired and covered in cuts and scrapes, and the dark circles under his eyes made it look like he hadn't slept in days. Madara wasn't the only one feeling tired these days. Sayo had also been working hard for the past week or so, looking at maps and trying to come up with a plan for the Uchiha clan that would involve the fewest deaths and sacrifices during all their fights and skirmishes with their enemies. Madara walked up behind Sayo and studied Sana's unconscious body for a few moments before heaving a sigh. You are the only reason why we haven't lost as many people as we did in the past. Sayo gave Madara a weak smile while rubbing small circles on Sana's still hand. She didn't know if she was trying to comfort herself or Sana with this action. You're just trying to make me feel better by saying that, she mumbled. No, I'm dead serious, Madara insisted, pulling out a chair and sitting next to Sayo. I can say this with absolute certainty. I grew up fighting in many different battles and wars. I've felt pain and suffered. We've never had a tactician in the clan, and neither did any of the other shinobi families. Before you came, we usually lost more than half of what we do now. You saved the lives of everyone who is still alive right now, and trust me, they appreciate what you did. Sayo wasn't talking. In a way, she understood that Madara is right. She didn't realize she was good at planning strategies for battles and wars until that mission 2 years ago, when they first met the Senju clan while trying to destroy the castle. Then, she slowly learned about strategies and tactics by reading every record or book the Uchiha clan had about all their past battles. She also knew that a tactician should never think that they have failed and that everything they did was for the best and saved lives. Ignore that Sayo stopped talking and looked from Sana to Madara and back again before sighing. Have you already noticed? Madara raised an eyebrow as he looked at Sayo, then turned to look at Sana's unconscious body. He sighed deeply, realizing what Sayo meant, and nodded tiredly. Yeah, he answered, sounding tired. I was hoping that the rest of the clan hadn't noticed yet, since we've been fighting the Senju clan for the past year or so, and since we're pretty much the only ones who go to Sana every day. He lost interest. Sayo was quiet for a few minutes before she started talking again. Sana hasn't changed at all since that day when Senju Hashirama hurt her so badly that she went into a coma, she said in a low voice so that only Madara could hear her, even though there isn't anyone else in the infirmary. But Sayo isn't taking any chances. I don't know why, but her body hasn't gotten older since then. It's not just Sana, Madara said seriously. He spoke while looking Sayo in the eye. Us too. We haven't gotten older since then either. We still look like we're 18 and 17, respectively. He made a sighing sound. I think it had something to do with the fact that we both have eternal Manjikaiu and that ours are fully matured and we have full control over their abilities. Sayo nodded. Yeah, I was worried something like this might happen, she admitted. She then let out a long sigh. And I don't know about you, but I think it might be a good idea to fake Sana's death and get her out of here. When you got your eternal Manjikaiu, the clan made such a big deal out of it that if you weren't the clan heir, and the son of the clan head, they would have probably kicked you out of the clan. If they knew about Sana's illness, I'm almost afraid to think about what they would do. Sayo sighed. People are afraid of things they don't know much about. But most importantly, death was the thing that everyone feared the most. They are afraid of even death itself. I'm guessing that not getting older means we probably won't die of old age, and if other people find out, they'll want that power for themselves, which could put us in danger. I trust Hideki-sama and a few other members of the clan, but there are others in the clan who Sayo trailed off, and Madara nodded. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, he said seriously. When our doujutsu were fully developed during the fight with the crazy doctor and his apprentice from Shongtsu village, I noticed that time seemed to stop for us. But we can always say that we're hiding our real ages by using a complicated genjutsu. He gave Sayo a slightly nervous smile. I do specialize in genjutsu, and you're pretty good at it too. But Seina, he took in and let out air. We couldn't give Seina an explanation. Madara was startled when he suddenly felt a weight on his shoulder. When he turned, Sayo was leaning her head against his shoulder. Sayo, sorry, she said, wiping her eyes with one hand. Let's stay like this for a few minutes. Sayo didn't say anything for a few minutes before she started talking again. I'm really exhausted. All these battles and fighting. When is it ever going to end? I'm also worried about Seina. She's been in a coma for 2 years, and she's still not showing any signs of waking up. I'm really worried that I'll walk in here one day and find her dead in her bed. Haru is already 2 years old as well. He kept asking when his mother would wake up. I don't even know how to respond to him. It's horrible, keeping a child waiting like this. Sayo's eyes were wet as she spoke, and the redhead turned her head away so Madara couldn't see her crying. It's hard enough for me, even it's harder for you if it's like that for us. What must it be like for Haru? He is just a little boy. He was just about old enough to walk on his own. All of these shouldn't be his problems. We are the ones who should look out for him until he is old enough to do it on his own. I told Seina and Izuna I would protect Haru, but she inhaled and exhaled. Nothing had changed in the 2 years that had gone by. I'm starting to think Seina might never wake up. Madara sighed, and then a small smile twitched the corners of his lips. 2 years, he wondered. Has it really been that long since you were last here? He looked at Sayo and gently took her left hand in his. This startled Sayo, but she didn't pull away from Madara. The Uchiha heir then looked at her hand very carefully, holding it slightly up in the sunlight. When Izuna and I found you in the Sun Forest 2 years ago, you definitely scared us. Who knew things would get to this point when you're one of the most famous Kunoichis in the shinobi world, and even male ninjas are afraid of your name, even though Kunoichis aren't usually respected. Sayo gave Madara a slightly nervous smile. Yeah, who knows, she murmured. She then got off Madara's shoulder and looked at Seina for a few moments before turning back to Madara. Tonight, Madara understood what Sayo was saying, so he nodded. Tonight, he said, nodding in agreement. That night, after midnight, you can find Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Sayo quietly sneaking into the infirmary without anyone noticing. Both are very skilled ninjas who have been trained for infiltration and gathering information, even though they specialize in fighting and destroying things. Both ninjas have left a cage bunshin in their rooms so that no one will think it's strange that they've left their beds. Sayo isn't a medic nin, but Seina, who is a very skilled medic nin, taught her enough about her job that she knows how to heal wounds, give blood transfusions, and implant eyes, which she did on Madara and Izuna 2 years ago. Seina also taught her how to make fake corpses as part of her medical training. Sayo is most thankful for the fact that she knows how to make fake corpses right now. She went to work making a fake body that looked exactly like Seina's and then put it in the hospital bed where the real person had been before Madara quietly lifted her onto his back. After completing the first part of their mission, both Uchiha ninjas quietly left the Uchiha clan enclave. The two of them already knew where to hide Seina. 2 years ago, when Seina and Izuna were still alive and well, the four of them found a secret cove near the Sea of the Moon country where they could rest and heal from their injuries. All four of them have agreed that it will be their own little secret place that only they will know about, and Madara and Sayo have decided to hide Seina there. Also, Moon Country is known for its beautiful moonlight and moonflowers, which are said to have mysterious healing powers, and both Uchihas secretly hope that this would help Seina wake up from her coma. I really hope no one will find Seina in there. Sayo was talking to Madara as they hopped through the trees on their way back to the Uchiha clan's stronghold. Madara took a quick look at Sayo over his shoulder before turning his attention to the path in front of him. Nighttime travel through the trees is always a little hard because it's dark, so they have to literally rely on their other senses so they don't run into a tree. You've put up the strongest barriers you have around her, Madara stated. I trust your sealing skills because I haven't heard of anyone breaking the seals you've made so far. Seina will be fine as long as she stays within your boundary. Sayo sighed and answered, I hope so. Then she frowned when her chakra senses picked up on something, and her eyes widened when she saw a flash of bright silver light coming towards Madara. Her instincts made her jump straight at Madara, knocking him out of the way of that silver light. Madara? What the heck? Madara was so shocked that he could barely get a full sentence out when he felt Sayo lunge at him, sending both of them straight down to the ground. Not even a few seconds later, there was a loud explosion that broke all of the tree branches above their heads, and pieces of oak and tree bark fell on their heads. As expected of you, a voice said, and when both uchihas looked up, they saw a skinny teen who didn't look much older than them floating down to the ground in front of them. The teen was actually a very handsome boy who looked to be around 19 years old. He had silky, chin-length black hair that fell perfectly around his face, and his electric blue eyes seemed to be from another planet. He was also wearing a black collared shirt with the two bottom buttons undone, showing a part of his stomach. He wore gray pants with black combat boots instead of the sandals that most ninjas wore. A long silver chain was wrapped around his body, from his left shoulder to his right waist, where a sword sheath was barely visible on his back. A black choker with a pendant of a raven with its wings spread out was also visible around his neck. Madara's eyes narrowed, and he had one hand on the hilt of his sword on his back, ready to draw it at any moment. He also had one hand on Sayo's sword's hilt, and the other was reaching for her kunai pouch, touching the handle of one of her Hiraishin kunais. "Who do you say you are?" Madara asked warily. "Kashigaki Yore," he said, although he had a strange accent. The guy then smiled at the two of them. "I don't want to do this the hard way, so could you come with me quietly, Uchiha Sayo-san?" Both uchihas pulled out a weapon and looked at Yore with suspicion. There is something about this guy that just screams danger, and Sayo didn't like the way he looked at her. The redhead then frowned while looking at the choker he was wearing. She's pretty sure she's seen something similar before. "What do you want to do with Sayo?" Madara demanded and stood in front of Sayo, which annoyed her. "Who are you exactly?" "Let's just say that I need your lady companion for something, and I'd appreciate it if you could come along quietly, and without making a fuss, because I really don't want to hurt you," Yore said to Sayo with a low bow that was almost mocking. Madara frowned. "If you think I'll let Sayo go with you, you must be kidding or on something," he snarled. Sayo looked up when she heard a low caw and saw a flash of black before a black raven came swooping down from the sky and landed on Yore's arm, stretching its wings and blinking its black, beady eyes at the two uchihas. Sayo had to look at the raven for a long time before she remembered something that immortal Kakuzu had said during their mission to Shongtsu village. "After all, he was right about you. Raven's Gate was right about you from the start." Raven's Gate, Sayo thought, and her mind was going a mile a minute. A raven. She looked at everything about Yore, from the raven on his arm to the pendant on his neck. Raven's Gate. Could he be the he about whom that Kakuzu guy talked 2 years ago? Sayo spoke slowly, "Raven's Gate," and both men turned to face her. She then made her hands into fists and put them by her sides. Then she looked at Yore. "What's one thing? Are you the he about whom the Kakuzu guy talked 2 years ago? And that ritual that Nabiki Mishio did in Shongtsu village 2 years ago with the sacrifices of several young people and children, normal people wouldn't know how to do that. Even I didn't know about it until 2 years ago, when I bought a very expensive book on seals and forbidden seals from a seller on the black market." Sayo's eyes got narrow. "Even back then, the only reason I knew about that ritual was because of the seals. The seals of heaven and earth that can't be used. Who are you, anyway? And why are you after me?" The smirk on Yore's face got bigger, but there was a dark look behind it. He said, "You sure have a good memory if you can remember something from that long ago. If you want to know about Raven's Gate, I can tell you that I'm in charge of that small group. And those 2 people you brought up, they are actually one of my subordinates, though I should say it was for one of them. You really hurt Kakuzu. He almost died from his wounds, even though the ritual made him almost impossible to hurt." "Where did you hear about Sayo?" Madara asked, remembering that mission because Sayo had brought it up. They shouldn't have been aware of Sayo's Daojutsu. "Where did you hear about it?" What about her Rinnegan?" Yore said this in a casual way, and Sayo's eyes got very narrow. "So he did know about it after all." "Don't act so shocked. There are ways for me to figure out what I did. To get to the main body of the Jubai in the moon, I need Uchiha Sayo and her Rinnegan." Madara can't do anything but stare at Yore as if he had gone crazy and grown 2 new heads. "Huh? Jubai? What's that?" Rikudo Sennin, who is said to be the father of all shinobi, sealed the body of the Jubai, the first beast with tails, into the moon that he made. He then separated the Jubai's soul from its body. Soon, that soul was known as the demons of Pandemonium, which we now call the tailed beasts. They stand for death and destruction, pain and a need to survive, Sayo said, narrowing her eyes. From her studies on sealing, she knew a lot about the Jubai and the Rikudo Sennin. "The body of a Jubai, you're looking for that? I don't really get it, but if that's the case, why are you after Sayo?" Madara demanded. "She knows how to get to the body of the Jubai, which is on the moon." Yore said it. "The Rinnegan is said to be the only thing that can make a way to the moon. And whether you like it or not, you're coming with me." Madara was caught off guard when a swarm of black flames with the shapes of demons in them were shot at him. He was so shocked that he couldn't move an inch. Madara was suddenly thrown to the ground and covered by another body. A light scream cut through the air. When the Uchiha heir finally became aware of his surroundings, he was horrified to see that Sayo had protected him from Yore's attack by using her own body as a shield. Her back looked like it had been badly burned, and parts of her shirt were torn off, revealing raw, red skin. Sayo, I'm fine, Sayo hissed, and with one hand, she grabbed her shoulder. Just get him. Before getting up, Madara hissed, and Yore smiled. Then, Yore suddenly lunged at Sayo with several taijutsu moves, but Madara grabbed his arm and stopped him. The Uchiha heir grunted as he was pushed back, but he gritted his teeth and kept his grip. You must be kidding if you think I'll let you touch Sayo. Madara hissed, took out his sword, and cut at Yore, who did a backflip. Sayo got to her feet, though she was shaking, and walked up to him from behind him. Madara, get him to go somewhere open. Sayo whispered in his ear and pulled out two of her Hurricane kunais and a strange blue orb that Madara knew was something Sayo uses for her sealing arts. I have a plan, but I need a lot of room to do it. Madara didn't take his eyes off of Yore as he nodded. I don't really get what is going on here, but I think that it'll be major bad news if he should ever get to the moon, he muttered, feeling rather stupid at the way that he had phrased his words. Also, in a few hours, it will be morning. Before then, we have to get back to the clan enclave. Sayo nodded. You're right about that. Lure him to an open space, 2 miles to the west at 2 o'clock, close to the sea. Madara nodded. Leave that to me. Sayo nodded and took a step back. She then closed her fingers around the blue orb in her hand and whispered something under her breath. The blue orb began to glow in a strange way. Madara then put his blade flat in front of him and put his chakra into it. Flames then surrounded the whole blade, and he slashed at the air, sending a whirl of flames straight at Yore. Yore barely managed to avoid the white-hot flames, which easily melted the ground and trees where he had been standing a moment ago, turning them into black goo. Holy cow, that was close. Yore muttered and looked back at where he had almost been cooked to death earlier. He then turned back to Madara, who looked angry. He then frowned. I guess your name Hanu no Madara isn't just for show. He muttered and pulled out his sword, which had a black blade with silver claws that looked like talon tips around the guard. I've heard about your skill, and I don't think I can take you lightly. Madara growled. You won't get Sayo over my dead body. He growled, sending another whirl of flames at Yore. The flames circled around him like they had a mind of their own, and Yore did the smartest thing he could think of at the time, which was to run away. Then Madara smiled to himself as he moved his flames. Good. If I can just get him to the sea, Sayo will be able to do her magic. As he ran after Yore, he thought about Sayo, who was staying far behind him. Soon, Yore could see the cliffs of the sea. Madara then told his flames to form a barrier of fire around Yore, closing him in. At this point, Madara was breathing heavily because manipulating chakra elements at this level into his sword, which has a lot of chakra in it like Sayo's sword, isn't easy. What do you want to do by luring me to a place like that? Yore asked Madara with a frown as she looked at the ends of his burned sleeves. If I remember right, most of your techniques need a lot of space. By putting up walls like this, you're only limiting what you can do for yourself. Madara breathed heavily and then smiled. He said, don't worry about me. I didn't bring you here so we could have a close quarters fight. I got you to walk into the barrier of flames so you can't get out. He then smirked, and Yore tensed up. Sayo, are you ready? Sayo said, yeah. And a part of the air rippled and grew until it fell away, revealing Uchiha Sayo standing behind Madara with the blue orb in her right hand. Madara, thanks for your help. You've taken his attention away long enough for me to do my magic. What are you saying? Yore stammered. Sayo said in a dark voice, Yore, you should have brought help or been ready for anything if you knew you were going to face a seal's master. Madara and I combined could probably kill you, but we don't have time to do that right now, which is too bad. So, the next best thing I can do is lock you up for good. 6 blue glowing spots appeared around Yore at that moment, and the orb Sayo is holding got even brighter. Then, what looked like a barrier of light appeared around Yore, with the lights crossing over each other. What is this? This is a special sealing orb that I had commissioned some time back by a chakra master who specializes in creating special chakra objects, said Sayo, holding out the blue orb in her hand. It lets me put a seal around someone by directing my chakra to where I want it to be. So, I didn't have to pull out the seals myself to keep you out. Goodbye, Toshigaki Yore. A small smirk then tugged at the ends of Sayo's lips. Suiho Shiru. After that, all anyone could hear for miles was a loud scream that echoed through the countryside. Fire Country, the home of the Uchiha clan. Man, what's up with that? Madara muttered as they literally flew through the trees. Dawn was breaking, and he knew that they have to hurry back to the enclave before anyone discovered that they're missing. Forget about it and whatever plans he had for the Jubai, Sayo said with a sigh as she rubbed her shoulder and hissed a little when she pulled on her wounds. I was able to lock him up, and that's more than enough even though his plans bother me. If it's true that he led a group of people. Yeah, Madara nodded darkly. We have to be on the lookout for this Raven's Gate organization then. Something tells me that they're major bad news, and it'll be bad if we don't stop them and their crazy plans for the moon. Sayo almost sweat dropped. Madara, it's not the moon. The Jubis, she was right, and Madara threw up his arms in anger. Whatever. The two Uchihas then got down from the trees and walked to the entrance of the Uchiha clan enclave, where they were met by a random Kunoichi. Have you both been doing morning training together again? She questioned before Madara and Sayo exchanged looks. Oh well, it really has nothing to do with me. Haiki-sama was looking for the two of you. It looks like it's pretty important, so you should both get going. House of the Clan Head Uchiha Clan Enclave. Father, did you call for us? Madara asked after he knocked on the door to let them know he was there and walked in through the doorway with Sayo close behind him. Uchiha Haiki was sitting in the Seiza position in the sitting room, drinking some tea with a scroll sitting in front of him. Madara. Sayo, welcome. When Madara and Sayo sat down in front of Haiki, he looked up. He then raised an eyebrow when he saw that Sayo's face sometimes showed pain. Sayo, did Madara fight a little too hard when you two sparred? Almost, Sayo muttered. Haiki told Sayo, you should go get Yuki to look at it earlier. Sayo agreed. But more importantly, I've called you both here because we need to talk about something important. What does it look like? I've received this scroll this morning from a messenger of the Senju clan of the forest, said Haiki, holding up the scroll sitting in front of him. After reading what was written on the scroll, I called a meeting of the clan council. We are still thinking about what to do about the proposal, but I wanted to tell you about it first before making an official announcement to the rest of the clan. Sayo raised an eyebrow. Haiki-sama, what is the message from the Senju clan? She asked curiously. They are proposing an alliance, a union of some sort, said Haiki gravely, and the two younger ninjas in front of him blinked owlishly. It seemed like all the battles and wars with the other shinobi clans over the past year or so had been very hard on the Senju clan and their members, and they had finally decided that they had had enough. This is a proposal by the Senju heir himself who will be succeeding his father as the clan head soon. Apparently, Senju Hashirama had the idea to start a shinobi village in Fire Country to unite all the shinobi clans, instead of having all the clans fighting among ourselves like cats and dogs. Madara almost started to sweat. He asked, did he really write cats and dogs there? Haiki didn't pay attention to his son as he kept talking. A proposal had been sent to every shinobi clan in Fire Country, and from what we knew, the Nara, Akimichi, and Yamanaka clans have accepted their proposal. And if those three clans have accepted, then it wouldn't be long before most of the shinobi clans in Fire Country accept that proposal for a union from the Senju clan. Even the fact that the Senju clan is one of the strongest and most important shinobi clans in Fire Country didn't help. Even if we were the best, we wouldn't stand a chance against all the shinobi clans in Fire Country if we didn't accept this plan. Madara was quiet for a while before she spoke. Why are you asking me about it when it's clear that you already agreed to it, father? He asked in an angry voice. What, has the Senju clan of the forest already forgotten about all the deaths that have been blamed on them? There are enemies, or have you already forgotten about it? Haiki seemed to sigh for the 100th time that day. Madara, I'm not getting any younger, and like with the Senju heir, you're about to succeed me as the clan head soon as well, since you're fast approaching your 20th birthday, said Haiki wearily. You have to understand that I don't like the idea of joining forces with our biggest rival and enemy, but I have to think about the rest of the clan's safety and lives as well. Even before you were born, we have been fighting and taking part in many wars and battles. Everybody is worn out. All of the battles we've been in over the years have been very hard on us, both mentally and physically. Also, I'm sure you can see it, too. And I know that Sayo did, since she is our tactician and the first one ever. We're fighting a losing battle here, as we're losing more and more clan members with each passing day. To protect the clan and our bloodline, we'll probably have to accept the union proposal of the Senju clan, and to help found this new village that they're planning on naming Konoha. Sayo didn't say anything for a very long time before she did. I don't like the idea of it, she said at last. I agree that this might be best for the clan, because I don't want Haru to grow up like we did. But in the long run, what will happen? The Senju clan had never trusted us, and if they and Senju supporters are left to run this shinobi village, what's to say that the Uchiha clan won't soon get the short end of the stick? Haiki moved around in an uneasy way. Well, about that, he said in a low voice. Some of the clan council members were worried about that, and they said so, but the head of the Senju clan has also asked for this truce and union. And that is? Madara asked warily, suddenly not liking the look on his father's face. Haigi glanced from Sayo to Madara and back again before taking in a deep breath before speaking. To solidify the alliance and union between both our clans, the Senju heir, Senju Hashirama, had asked for the hand of marriage of one Uchiha Sayo. Almost no one was talking in the room at that moment. Sayo didn't get a single wink of sleep that night. Sayo had left the windows open, and it was a cool night. Even though she hadn't slept at all the night before, she couldn't fall asleep at all that night. The redhead kept tossing and turning in her bed, crumpling up the sheets as she did so, but she just couldn't fall asleep no matter what she did. She finally gave up and just stared at the wooden ceiling of her room in Seina's old house in the Uchiha clan enclave. After Haiki-sama told him that shocking news that morning, Madara became very quiet, and no one saw him for the rest of the day. Sayo sat in the Uchiha clan enclave in the branches of the weeping cherry tree, where she always sits when she needs to think or be alone for a few hours. And she had sat there the whole day, from morning until night. Sayo knew a lot about politics and knew how the minds of the daimyos, as well as the minds of the lords of each nation and politicians, worked. She knew and understood politics because Haiki-sama had taught her. Neither of his sons liked to sit in on his political lessons, and Seina doesn't have the same sharp wit as the daimyos. So, the head of the Uchiha clan was happy that Sayo was smart enough and witty enough to compete with the daimyos and lords they usually have to deal with, and that she was also polite enough not to offend them. So, Sayo knew a lot about politics and knew that it was common for two shinobi clans to marry for political reasons, especially if they wanted to keep things calm between them. However, if you asked Sayo to name someone she didn't like and wouldn't accept as a friend in this life, the next life, or any life after that, she would probably say Senju Hashirama. A few hours after Haiki bombshell, Sama's the Uchiha clan's medics found Seina's dead body. It seemed like Sayo had made a convincing corpse for the medics to find, since not even Yuki, the head medic, had guessed anything was wrong. Seina was therefore declared dead. Haru, on the other hand, had cried his eyes out when he heard about his mother's death. Sayo felt bad seeing the little boy cry like that, but she knew she couldn't tell Haru about this. Sayo finally got up from her bed and turned so that her back was against the wall next to the window. Her arms were wrapped around her legs, which she pulled up to her chest. It was a cool, quiet night, with only the chirping of crickets and the low whistling of the wind to be heard. Sayo is very sensitive to chakra and nature, just like Seina. Because of this, it would be hard for most people to sneak up behind her and not be seen. So far, only Madara and Senju Hashirama, who is the heir to the Senju family, could do that. Sayo doesn't mind Senju Tabarama as much because she kind of likes him, especially since she worked with him on that mission to Shongtsu village 2 years ago. And the secondary Senju heir with silver hair is also kind of like Izuna to her. Both of them have the same cheeky look, the same mischievous personality, and the same sunny way of looking at life. Sayo is also pretty sure that if Tabarama and Izuna had met in a different place and time, they probably would have been the best of friends, or even brothers. However, Sayo frowned to herself as she turned her head up to look at the open window with the bamboo screen left open to let the night air in. She then sighed to herself and turned her eyes back down to the bed sheets. Madara, how long are you going to stay there? How long have you been in that place? Just outside her window, she heard a low sigh, and Sayo's sharp ears picked up the sounds of light scuffling. Then Madara stood up and leaned against the wall of her house next to the window, his chakra feeling sad and frustrated. I've been here for a while, Madara answered with a slight tilt of his head back and his hands clasped behind his back. I will stay here as long as I have to, even until the sun comes up if I have to. I worry about you a lot. Sayo gave herself a nervous smile and then looked at the bedside table next to her bed. There, on the table, was the ninjato that Madara had given her for her first birthday, which they had celebrated together. You're always the same. I could say the same thing about you, Madara replied. There was silence for a while, except for the sound of crickets chirping, before he spoke again. This time, he sounded serious, and his voice was lower than before. What will you do about what the Senju suggested? Sayo kept quiet and wrapped her arms tighter around her knees. She said, I have no idea. Also, it doesn't really matter what I want right now, does it? He is in charge of the clan. He needs to decide what the best thing to do is for the clan. Right now, you and I both know what the best thing to do is. A few seconds went by before Madara spoke again. His voice had a hint of pain in it. He said, "There's no one else here," because his voice shook a little. Because of this, you can tell me how you really feel. How you really feel about it. What it is you really want to do. Tell me, Sayo. Sayo was quiet for a few minutes. She bit her lower lip to keep from crying and wrapped her arms tight around her knees. "You're always like this," she said, letting out a short, bitter laugh. "Like always, you can see right through me in a way that not even Sana could. My real thoughts, huh?" She rested the back of her head on the wall. "Truthfully, I don't know either. I hope you will be able to tell me." "I can't." Madara mumbled something and looked down at the ground. "You are the only one who can answer that question. I'm pretty sure you also know the answer to that." Sayo, as I knew her, always knew what she wanted and what she needed to do. That looks like the Sayo I knew. The one I'm interested in. Sayo's stomach filled with butterflies when she heard that, and she had to fight to keep it down. She put her forehead on her kneecaps and didn't say anything for a few moments. "I'm scared," she finally said. "Things are changing so quickly that I can't keep up with them. That guy, Senju Hashirama, what did he want to happen when he came up with this idea? I don't understand. I don't want to marry that guy, that's the truth. Even though it's been 2 years, I still can't forgive him for what he did to Sana." But at this moment she put her head against the wall of her house and let tears fall from her eyes. But she didn't wipe them away. "What I wanted doesn't really matter now, does it? I won't let that happen to you," Madara said so firmly and with such conviction that Sayo wanted to believe him for a moment. "I won't make them make you do something you don't want to do," she said. Sayo gave a small, hesitant smile and unwrapped her arms from around her knees. She then put her right hand flat against the wall of her house where she could feel Madara leaning and pretended that Madara's hand was touching that part of the wall. Madara is doing the same thing on the other side of the wall, but she doesn't know it. He is acting like he is talking to her while his right hand is flat against the wall of the house. Sayo said in a soft voice, "You can't promise that. Even though you are the heir to the Uchiha clan, there are some things you can't do." Madara said, "This time, I promise that I will do it. So, Sayo, please don't give up just yet. I can't keep Azuna and Sana safe. Now, I only have you left. Please." He put his eyes shut. "Don't quit and don't leave me." Sayo almost didn't hear the last part because he said it so softly. "I won't make them make you get married if you don't want to. I won't let you get hurt like that. I'll be there for you always. I'll hold your hand if you fall down. If you cry, I'll wipe your tears away. I'll be there for you always. Always. Because please." Madara's voice trailed off, and he looked like his heart was going to break. "Don't quit." Sayo smiled sad-faced to herself on the other side of the wall, where her hand was pressing against the wall, and slowly making a fist. "Thank you." The following morning, the Uchiha clan enclave. Madara did, in fact, spend the whole night outside Sayo's house. When morning came, Sayo went to the bathroom for a quick shower, and Madara went back to his house quickly because he knew his father was in the mediation hall. "Father, it's me," said Madara as he knocked on the door of the mediation hall to let everyone know he was there. "I'll be in." Uchiha Hiki was wearing a white yukata and sitting in the Caesar position with his eyes closed. When Madara walked in and sat down across from him in the Caesar position with a serious look on his face, Uchiha Hiki opened his eyes. Uchiha Hiki asked, "Is there something wrong?" Even though he knew exactly what Madara had come to ask. He would have to be a fool, blind, or deaf not to have noticed how Madara and Sayo acted after he told them that bombshell the day before. He knew that his older son liked the redhead, who is one of the best Kunoichis in the clan. She is as strong and skilled as Madara, which is saying a lot since Madara is already close to being stronger and more skilled than him. About the Senju's marriage proposal, Madara said slowly, his eyes never leaving his father's. "Can I get out of it?" Hiki sighed. "And what do you want me to do about it, Madara?" he asked, tired. Sayo is already 18 years old, and her 19th birthday is coming up soon. She is already old enough to get married, just like you. I know that the clan usually doesn't agree to political marriages like this, but with the Senju clan's offer of a truce and alliance, Hiki sighed. "I don't like it any more than you do, but I also have to think about what's best for the clan." "But father, Madara, you need to act soon if you don't want to lose Sayo to your rival," Hiki interrupted. "I can tell you like Sayo from a mile away. You've been doing that for a long time, even before the death of your brother. I think that's why Azuna chose to give his life for you instead of killing himself. He knew how much you liked Sayo." Hiki sighed. "The son of the Senju king wants her, and because they are such a powerful and important clan, you don't have much time to waste." Sayo sat in the Uchiha clan enclave in the branches of the weeping cherry tree and watched the setting sun and all the birds flying home to roost. She said to herself, another day has come and gone. She then looked at her tightly closed fist and sighed. How long can I keep doing this? How much longer do I still have? Sayo. She was thinking about something when she heard a voice that made her look down. She saw Madara standing at the base of the weeping cherry tree and looking up at her with a serious face. Sayo asked, what is it? With an interested look on her face. He told Sayo, tonight is the Moonlit Festival. Sayo blinked like an owl. To celebrate that festival, Tanzakugai is having a festival in the town. Will you come to the fair with me? Tanzakugai is one of the bigger trading towns in Fire Country. It is also known for its casinos and other places to gamble. So, the decorations and game booths at the Moonlit Festival are pretty cool, and people from all walks of life can be seen walking around the town. Sayo was wearing a cream-colored kimono with green leaf patterns on it, and Madara was wearing a dark blue kimono with white leaf patterns. They were both in town for the festival celebrations. Madara really wanted Sayo to forget about her problems for just one night, so he literally dragged her to every game stall in town. He made her laugh sometimes when he kept failing at the paper scoop game and couldn't catch a goldfish. The person in charge of that game stall finally felt bad for him and gave him a red water balloon, which Madara gave to Sayo right away. But when he and Sayo ran into a senjuer and his brother in the middle of the street, everything he had done to make Sayo forget about her worries and problems for just one night came crashing down around his ears. When Madara saw the two Senju clan members, he gave them a dangerous look and pushed Sayo behind him to protect her. Senju Tabarama looked nervous when he saw them, but Hashirama looked sure of himself and even a little bit cocky. Madara-san. Hashirama said hello before he saw Sayo, who looked angry and a little scared. Sayo, don't talk to me like you know me so well. Sayo spit. You didn't deserve that. After all, you're going to be my wife soon. Hashirama said this, ignoring Madara's dangerous growl and Tabarama's worried look at both Madara and Hashirama. We haven't decided yet to do that, hissed Madara. We might have agreed to the truce and clan alliance when we built that shinobi village, but we definitely didn't agree to the marriage part. Can't we just forget everything that's happened in the past and start over? Hashirama kept talking as if Madara hadn't said anything, and he looked Sayo in the eye. I'm not lying when I say I like you. I don't see you as something to win. Madara gave a snort. He said, you could have fooled me. But it's true that your skills as a kunoichi were what first drew me to you. Hashirama kept going on as if Madara had never said anything. Most kunoichis didn't choose to focus on fighting like you did. They chose instead to focus on tricks and genjutsu instead. But you're different. That was the first thing that made me like you. I'm not lying when I say I like you. Can't we just put everything behind us and start over? Sayo stared at Hashirama for so long with a strange look that it made all three male shinobi nervous. The look in Sayo's eyes is a mix of angry, insulted, and about to kill the Senju heir right away. Do you mean to say that you forgot how you killed Sana? Sayo asked Hashirama in a cold voice, and he jerked back as if he had just been hit in the face. Has it slipped your mind that she is my best friend? If what you said is true, how do you think I feel about how badly you hurt her 2 years ago? You didn't care, did you? I think about what you did to her 2 years ago every single time I see you. That fight you two had every time I saw you, I could remember it like it was yesterday. How can you expect me to forgive you or even forget about it when it was you who killed Sana? Sayo's hands were in fists at her sides. You were never hurt by Sana. Back then, 2 years ago, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I am a ninja. I know that a shinobi's life is not the place for revenge. She set her teeth together. I'm aware of it. But, still, I can't forget what you did. I just can't forget about you. I can't forget what you did, no matter what you do. Sayo said in a cold way. Putting Sana's problem aside, all of the Uchiha deaths that were blamed on you, I saw the bodies of those ninjas being brought back in bags, you know. I am, after all, the strategist for the Uchiha clan. I made sure that they were laid to rest. Do you think a lot of tears were shed at those funerals? How many people do you think have been sad about those deaths? How many parents do you think were heartbroken when they found out that their kids wouldn't be coming home that night or ever again? Not that I'm saying it's the same for your clan, because I know it is. But Sana's problem affects me personally. I can't forget what you did. I just can't forgive you, no matter what you do. We can work together, but we can't be anything else, not even as friends. After that, she walked away. Madara, let's go. Madara nodded and then followed Sayo. As they went, both Uchiha ninjas missed the way Senju Hashirama's eyes were shining. People enjoying the festival, music, and other sounds of celebration were much quieter as Sayo led Madara to the town's riverbank, where it was much quieter and no one was there. Sayo gave Madara a weak, sad smile as he walked up to the redhead who was standing by the river with her arms crossed over her chest. "Sorry," she said. "After all, you brought me to this festival so we could have fun." "But Madara shook his head and said, "Don't worry about it. I understand. If it were me, I probably would have done what you did. In fact, I probably would have done more. I might have punched him in the face or done something else." But he looked at Sayo and then gave her a smile. "I guess I can see why you didn't like him. It's really Sana's fault." Sayo didn't speak for a while after that. Just then, a golden glow caught her eye from the corner of her eye. When she looked up, she saw several fireflies flying around the riverbank, and her face lit up. "Fireflies, huh?" said Madara in wonder. "Rarely do they show up this late in the summer. Most likely, these are the last ones." "I see. Summer is almost done." Sayo nodded. "It's too bad." She sighed, put both hands behind her back, and stepped on the grass with one foot before sitting down on the bank of the river. Madara did the same thing. As time goes on, things change. This is true for all living things, including people. She groaned. "It's so true what they say." Sayo looked down at the grass and asked softly, "Can we really watch the fireflies like this again next year? Will things be different from now on?" She then gave him a smile and looked at Madara. "When I thought about it, seeing these fireflies reminded me of something. I remember the first time Sana and Izuna took me to the river near the clan enclave to watch the fireflies. It was in the summer of 2 years ago. When I saw them, my first thought was that they looked like lanterns in the night sky. It's almost like they're lighting a way for people who are lost." She gave a sad smile. "Then can they show me the way now? What do I need to do now?" Or, Sayo looked at the grass on the ground. "Can we never, ever go back to that time?" Madara said firmly, "I won't let that happen." He grabbed Sayo by the shoulder and forced her to look him in the eye. "That's not going to happen." Sayo shut her eyes in despair and let her head fall onto Madara's shoulder. She rested her forehead on his shoulder and grabbed hold of his kimono with both hands. She said, "You don't know that," as salty tears ran down her cheeks and wet Madara's kimono. This is one of the few times she really worries about what the future holds. She doesn't believe in fate or destiny. Instead, she thinks that everyone makes their own future. However, you have no idea what might happen. No one was able. Also, Madara, you know Haiki-sama won't have much of a choice in this. He needs to think about the clan's well-being. I know what he meant from a political point of view, but it doesn't make it easier to accept, though. I can't see a way out. And you saw what had been going on before. Senju Hashirama is not an easy person to give up on. Madara wrapped his thin arms around Sayo and said, "I've told you before that I will protect you. I'll be here for you always. I'm not going to leave you." "How?" Sayo was shocked and surprised when Madara grabbed her shoulders and pushed her away from him before grabbing her lips and giving her a quick kiss. Almost as soon as the kiss started, it was over, and Madara looked Sayo in the eye with a look that was almost desperate and frantic. "I'll tell you the truth, I've always wanted to kiss you," he said. "I've always wanted to hold you like this and be the one to always look out for you. But I was scared after Izuna died. I didn't want to lose you the way I lost my brother. The rest of the clan blamed me for Izuna's death, so you were the only one who talked to me after she died. They said I killed him, and they aren't totally wrong. Still, it hurts. But you were the one who stood by my side and helped me through it all. You were always the one who made me feel better. You were the person who was always with me. Then I realized I really couldn't live without you. But I still didn't want to face the truth because I was afraid it would make things different between us. You have been my best friend, my confidant, my partner, my everything for a long time. I was worried that our relationship would change. But then the Senju clan made me an offer, and I realized it didn't matter anymore. At least not to me. It wasn't important." Madara nodded. "It was no longer important to me," he said. "It was silly of me to think that. I was stupid to worry that things would change. When the Senju clan asked me to marry them, I realized that it didn't matter what happened as long as I could see you, be with you, hold you like this, and kiss you. What's possible? What would be different? Even if everything goes wrong, even if no one believes in me, it makes no difference. Not to me at least. Not as long as you have faith in me and are by my side. You give me power, my everything. As long as you don't leave me and always be by my side, I feel like I can do anything. That's why ... don't leave me." Sayo was taken aback by surprise when Madara kissed her again. "I love you, Sayo," he said, his voice quavering when he broke that kiss again, his hands gripping her shoulders tightly, almost like he was afraid that she would disappear if he loosens his grip on her. "I'll say this as many times as you wish if I have to. I knew that I was developing feelings for you from a long time ago, but I chose to ignore it. I didn't want things changing between us. But the marriage proposal that had come from the Senju clan then made me realize that if you are gone ... that if you belong to someone else, there is no sense for me in living any longer. I didn't want to exist in a world where you don't exist, or if you aren't by my side. I love you, Sayo. Will ... you accept me? Sayo was speechless for a while. Never before had someone told her that he had loved her, and so deeply as well. A long time ago, Madara is one of the most sought-after boys in the Uchiha clan. And even now, he still is, though viewed with mistrust as well. But Sayo had trusted and believed in Madara, and she had stood by him. Not because of Izuna's last wishes. Not because Madara is all that is left to her now. But because she wanted to. She wanted to be the one to see him smile, and to make him happy again whenever he is sad. She wanted to stay by his side. Feeling almost like something is stuck in her throat, all that Sayo could do is nod, a gentle smile appearing on her face and pulling at the ends of her lips. Madara then smiled and produced a black velvet box from within the folds of his kimono before opening it to reveal a smooth silver ring with 3 sapphire-colored stones set in the middle of it. The exact same color as Sayo's eyes, and the redhead's eyes widened upon seeing that beautiful ring that sparkled in the light given by the fireflies surrounding them. Madara smiled at her as he took her left hand into his and slid the ring onto the ring finger of her left hand. Marry me, Sayo. Uchiha Hideki was waiting for Madara and Sayo at the entrance to the Uchiha clan enclave when they came back from the Moonlit Festival, walking hand in hand. The Uchiha clan head smiled a rare smile at the 2 young people when he saw that their hands were linked and saw the silver ring on Sayo's left ring finger. He said to his son, who was looking away, "You sure move fast, Madara." Then Hideki gave one of his rare smiles. He turned to Sayo and said, "My son had finally grown up. Sayo, don't worry about the Senju clan. I'll think of something. I won't force you into a marriage you don't want, no matter what the clan wants," he said, then got serious. "Sayo, this stupid son of mine is not the best guy out there, nor is he the best boyfriend for a girl. I doubt he even knows how to write the word romantic." Madara almost turned white. "Father," Hideki didn't pay attention to Madara and kept talking as if Madara hadn't even been there. "But as a father, I can say that I will never be prouder of anyone than I am of him," he said with a smile. Then he turned and went toward Madara. "I hope the best for you both, and Madara, please take good care of your wife." All of the shinobi clans in Fire Country, including the Fire Daimyo, were invited to the wedding of the Uchiha clan heir. This was because it was going to be a pretty big event, as Uchiha Hideki would be passing the title of Uchiha clan head to Madara on that day. And the alliance with the Senju clan would also be made official on that day. The day of the wedding, everyone in the Uchiha clan was excited because it had been a while since they had something to celebrate. And if everything goes as planned, they won't have to fight anymore like they always did before. The wedding will take place in the Rose Garden of the Uchiha clan enclave, and many of the Uchiha clan's women have been busy getting ready. Sayo doesn't know who her parents are, so Uchiha Hideki decided to walk her down the aisle since she was like a daughter to the clan head. The Uchiha head medic chose the best fabric for Sayo's wedding kimono, and the freshest flowers for the wedding day. Yuki worked hard on the wedding kimono for weeks until she was happy with it. It fits Sayo like a glove. Sayo's white wedding kimono is a good contrast to Madara's traditional black wedding kimono, which has the Uchiha clan symbol carved all around the collar. The redhead's wedding kimono was made of pure white silk with pale pink sakura flower prints and a light blue outline around the collar. In the Rose Garden of the Uchiha clan enclave, a pale white arch with a red carpet leading to where the priest of the Shinto shrine Uchiha Hideki always went to would be watching the ceremony was set up. All of the guests were already seated. The clan leaders and their families were in the front seats, along with the Fire Daimyo and his guards. The chairs were set up on either side of the long red carpet. As the next Uchiha clan head was getting married, there was no way in hell that the Uchiha clan could not invite the clan heads of all the other shinobi clans in Fire Country as well as all the other important people in Fire Country. Also, this wedding ceremony is a chance to cement the alliance with the Senju clan. After that, construction on the new shinobi village can begin. There were also rumors of a possible alliance with the Whirlpool country, but that part of the deal is being handled by the Senju clan. There was also talk that this alliance would include an arranged marriage. Sato, the owner of the clothing and weapons store that Madara and Sayo always go to in one of the towns near the Uchiha clan enclave, is Madara's best man on that day because the guy didn't have any other close male friends. He would have usually asked Izuna to be his best man, but one of the children of the Uchiha clan was standing close to Sato at the end of the red carpet. The small 8-year-old was wearing a formal dark blue kimono and holding up a red silk pillow with 2 silver gold wedding rings with 3 sapphire stones each set in it, along with a crimson red stone set in the middle of the circle that the 3 sapphire stones made on the ring itself. Haru, a 2-year-old toddler, was also very excited, especially with all the excitement going on. He was currently in the care of Senju Tabarama, who seemed to be the only person Sayo had actually trusted to take care of him. Madara didn't seem to agree with her, but he did say that he might be the only one who could be trusted with Haru's care. He also warned the silver-haired Senju ninja that he would hurt him badly if Haru ever lost even one hair. On this clear autumn day without a cloud in the sky, the sakura trees were swaying in the light breeze. It was the perfect day for the big event. The petals of the sakura flowers were also falling in a pretty way, making a beautiful scene. Enshrinement Cove, Uchiha Clan Outpost. In the cove of the Uchiha Clan Enclave, where the Sharingan-wielding clan had buried all of their dead, Uchiha Madara was seen standing in front of one of the coffins and touching the sides of the wooden coffin. He was wearing his black wedding kimono at the time. Today is the day, Izuna, Madara told his younger brother, who looked like he was just sleeping in the coffin even though he had been dead for almost 2 years. It is a tradition of the Uchiha clan that the immediate family of the clan head, which is the main family of the Uchiha clan, would have the bodies of their dead family members kept for eternity with a special, elaborate blood seal written with Uchiha blood. I'm finally getting married to Sayo today. You should be by my side as my best man, congratulating me and helping me get through the day. He gave the body in the coffin a small, hesitant smile. He then let out a sigh and dipped his head so that his hair fell over his eyes. But I guess things don't always go the way we want them to, do they? Madara turned around when he heard that voice and saw his father standing behind him with a serious look on his face. Uchiha Hideki asked with a sigh, "You do know it's bad luck to be near a coffin on your wedding day, right?" Madara mumbled, "Sorry, it's just that I feel like I need to see Izuna first," and Hideki nodded. Hideki told his son, "It's about time. Let's go." At exactly noon, the band started to play, and Uchiha Hideki walked Sayo steadily down the aisle. Sayo's right hand was in Hideki's left hand, and her left hand was holding a bouquet of red tulips with orange tips. The flowers were nestled in a nest of healthy green leaves and tied with a red ribbon. Madara watched as his bride and her father walked down the aisle. The bridesmaids walked behind them, and one of Sayo's close medic nin friends held the edge of her wedding kimono behind her to keep it from dragging on the ground. 2 Uchiha children were walking in front of the bride and her bridesmaids while throwing up the flowers they were holding in wicket baskets. Madara felt his breath catch in his throat as Hideki walked his princess down the aisle. To him, she really did look like a princess or even a goddess, and he thanked Kami-sama for giving him such a wonderful woman to marry. Hideki took Sayo's hand and put it in Madara's when they got to the end of the row. Sayo smiled softly as she looked into Madara's dark eyes. Then, the two of them turned to face the Shinto shrine priest who was standing there in his black and white robes. As he spoke, the priest smiled, and his voice could be heard loud and clear over the rose garden. "Today is a happy day, and we're all here to watch Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Sayo get married. Can anyone here give a good reason why these two shouldn't get married?" If anyone had spoken up at this point, Madara would have probably killed them right away. The Uchiha heir looked around at all the guests sitting down. More than half of them had small smiles on their faces. He saw Senju Hashirama sitting between his father and brother in one of the front rows, and he didn't like the look on his face, which was a mix of anger and jealousy. Senju Tabarama had a firm hold on his brother's kimono sleeve and was giving him a look that dared him to say something. There was silence for a while, until the priest smiled at both Madara and Sayo. "Then we'll get started," he said. "Are you both in agreement that you're standing here willingly and ready to spend the rest of your lives with each other?" "Yes," said Madara firmly. "Yes," said Sayo in a soft voice. He smiled and gave a nod. "Do you know that the promises you make on this holy day will be spoken in front of Kami and everyone who has come to witness this union?" "Yes," said Madara. "Yes," said Sayo. "Then you can change your vows and promise to only tell the truth," the priest said. The Uchiha boy who was in charge of carrying the rings stepped forward at that moment, smiling a little nervously. Madara gave the boy a small wan smile before taking the smaller of the 2 rings and carefully slipping it onto Sayo's ring finger on her left hand as he said his vows. "Before Kami, heaven and earth, hear me, for today I make this sacred vow of my own free will. Today, I marry this woman and make her my wife. I promise that I will love you, respect you, comfort you, encourage you, help you, be faithful to you, protect you, and comfort you in times of sorrow and struggle. I promise to cherish you and to always hold you in the highest regard, from this day forward until the day of my death. Sayo took the other wedding ring and put it on Madara's left ring finger. Her hands were shaking and her heart was beating fast. Before Kami, heaven and earth, hear me, for today I make this sacred vow of my own free will. Today I marry this man and to make him my husband. I promise that I will love you, respect you, comfort you, encourage you, help you, be faithful to you, protect you, and comfort you in the times of sorrow and struggle. I promise to cherish you and to always hold you in the highest regard. Then the priest gave a smile. And now, in front of the witnesses and Kami herself, I declare you to be husband and wife. May Kami herself bless you with happiness, health, and children, and may your union as one last long and forever. He smiled and turned to Madara. Now you can kiss the bride, he said. As the young couple kissed and looked deeply into each other's eyes, people started to cheer and applaud. I love you, said Madara to Sayo. And I love you, said Sayo, smiling gently. The people around them cheered and celebrated as they kissed again. Senju Hashirama made a fist with his right hand while it was hidden in the sleeve of his kimono. No one else could see it. After 6 months, country with a lot of fires. 6 months later, the new village of Konoha no Sato was slowly but steadily being built. Before the new village was built, though, fire country, and the shinobi clans were in a lot of trouble. Several counselors in the inner circle of the fire daimyo and their families were mysteriously killed. And since the Uchiha and Senju clans were two of the most powerful shinobi clans in fire country, the fire daimyo asked for their help. Each clan sent their new clan leader and their second most powerful member to help: Senju Hashirama, Senju Tobirama, Uchiha Madara, and Uchiha Sayo. Sayo didn't need long to figure out that it was the work of outsiders, thanks to her quick mind and ability as a tactician to think strategically. Or, more specifically, that cursed organization that someone named Toshigaki Yore started. Both Sayo and Madara have met this person, and because the organization has lost its mind, its members are currently running wild. Raven's Gate's plan seems to be threatened by the Senju clan's plan to create a new shinobi village with the help of all the other shinobi clans in Fire Country. In response, Raven's Gate has started killing people who support the Fire Daimyo. Sayo had a sneaking suspicion that whoever is running Raven's Gate now wants to be the new leader of said new shinobi village, or the Hokage, the Fire Shadow. Sayo finally gave up when 5 more council members and their families were killed, along with a small clan of shinobi with no name who had been protecting the daimyo and his family for generations. She went after the Raven's Gate killers herself, even though Madara and everyone else told her not to. No one knows how the hell she knew where they were. Madara thought at first that Sayo had made the most of her ability to sense chakras and her ability to open portals next to people whose chakras she had locked onto. Anyone who even briefly met Sayo wouldn't be able to hide from her if she wanted to find them or, worst case scenario, kill them. The redhead killed half of the Raven's Gate assassins by herself when she teleported right into their base, and used her Hurration, living up to her name of Flash Goddess by killing half of them in just a few minutes. The rest of the survivors ran away, swearing revenge, and one of them was an immortal. Sayo couldn't find them later because she hadn't fought against them. So, the Fire Daimyo gave in to Sayo, Madara, Hashirama, and Tobirama's idea to have 12 elite ninjas as part of his protection squad. These 12 elite ninjas from the shinobi village in his country were given the job of protecting him for a set number of years. The Fire Daimyo called them the 12 Fire Guardian Ninjas. Sayo and Madara ended up working with Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama to build the village ninja system, and the security and escape routes. The Senju brothers will build the village's buildings and homes, and Senju Hashirama will be the new Hokage, as decided by a unanimous vote of all the other shinobi clans. Sayo wasn't too happy about this, since she was still wary of Hashirama and the Senju clan had always been rivals and enemies of the Uchiha clan. But in exchange, Sayo and Madara and the Senju brothers had found a middle ground. The Uchiha clan would be allowed to make their own military force, which would basically be the village's police force for civilian matters and to help make the village safer. They could also make any other security groups they thought the village needed. Madara told Sayo, "Well, it looks like everything is going well," as they stood in front of a large tower that was being built. This tower was going to be the Hokage Tower, the main place where the Hokage and all administrative matters would take place. But I didn't really expect Hora's people to. Sayo sighed. Yeah. Just then, they noticed 2 familiar chakra sources behind them. When they turned around, they saw Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama standing behind them without saying anything. When Madara saw the look on Hashirama's face, he made a small frown. He then put his arm around Sayo's shoulders and led her away. Let's go. Senju Tobirama sighed when he saw how his brother looked as the two Uchihas left. He knew that the two Uchihas who had become his friends after the alliance had never trusted his brother, and he doesn't blame them in the least. Hashirama had tried to trick them into an arranged marriage alliance a half-year ago. But what the hell is his brother thinking now that he has been following Sayo around everywhere since the Raven's Gate mess? Hashirama should know that he can no longer get to Uchiha Sayo. This is the last time I'll say this, Nyai-san, Tobirama said, and Hashirama turned to face him. Give up on Sayo. She and Madara-san are already married, and happily so. I would rather not ruin the new friendship I had with them over some crazy thing you did. And the village's alliance with their clan is already set in stone. Doing anything to them at this point is going to be disastrous, not to mention suicide. Not even you could beat both of them at the same time. Hashirama swung around quickly to get to his brother, taking his eyes off Sayo's back as she left, a look of shock on his face. Fiancé, what? What do you mean? Tobirama got angry and rolled his eyes. He said in a sarcastic tone, You've got your head in the clouds again, haven't you? After the Uchiha clan turned down the marriage proposal and Haiki-sama suggested a deeper alliance by letting their clan build the security and military force of the new village. Father's last act as the Senju clan head before passing the mantle to you was to get you engaged to the princess of the Uzumaki clan from the Whirlpool country. That clan had helped us a lot with the founding of the new village and then with the aftermath of Raven's Grip. After 1 year, Tenzakugai, Fire Country, Uzumaki Maido, who is now Senju Maido and has been married to Senju Hashirama, the Shodaime Hokage of Konoha, for a little less than a year, frowned slightly as she watched the redhead woman, who still looked like she was in her teens while she herself was in her early 20s, negotiating with the shop owner of the weapons shop that the Uchiha clan had always gone to even before the Great Alliance. From what she could see, the wife of the head of the Uchiha clan was clearly ordering some kind of weapon, judging by what was on the walls and under the glass counters. Uzumaki Maido knew very well that her own marriage to the then clan heir of the Senju clan, who is now the clan head, was only for political reasons. But even so, if she didn't like Senju Hashirama, she wouldn't have agreed to it in the first place. She met the then heir of the Senju clan at a dinner party in the Whirlpool country. At the time, her father had hired Senju ninjas to protect his family while he made trade deals with the daimyo of the Wave country. Senju Hashirama and his brother were in charge of watching over her and her younger sister. She got along with Senju Hashirama right away because, even though the Uzumaki clan was the ruling family of the Whirlpool country, they were also trained as ninjas, and she had been trained in the ninja arts from a very young age. She was a kunoichi, but like most of them, she didn't have a lot of chakra. Because of this, she chose to be a doctor and an expert in genjutsu, though she also knew a few offensive ninja techniques. Maido thought Senju Hashirama was a kind and caring man, but he was kind of cool with her at the time, which she could understand since he was a ninja on a mission at the time. After their mission, she started writing letters to the Senju brothers. When Hashirama stopped writing to her for a while, Tobirama told her about the alliance Hashirama was proposing, and that he wanted to marry a kunoichi from the Uchiha clan who had caught Hashirama's eye. At that time, Maido felt like her heart was almost breaking. She knew there was bad blood between the Senju and Uchiha clans and that they had never really gotten along. This was especially true since their clan heirs at the time, Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, had never really agreed on anything and had fought to the death several times. It also didn't help that Uchiha Seina and Uchiha Izuna, two of the most talented ninjas of their generation from the Uchiha clan, had died tragically about a year or so before the proposed marriage. Maido had heard from Tobirama about Uchiha Sayo, a Uchiha kunoichi who Hashirama liked and wanted to marry. It seems that the Uchiha clan found her by chance about 2 or 3 years ago, and knew right away that she was family. Since the redhead was an orphan and didn't know who her family was, Uchiha Haiki, the head of the Uchiha clan at the time, took her in right away. Uchiha Seina took her under her wing almost right away, and Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Izuna also offered her their protection. Not long after that, Uchiha Sayo started to make a name for herself as a kunoichi, a seals master, and a tactician. Soon, her name was known to almost every shinobi clan out there. But the Senju clan's plan to get the Uchiha clan to agree to an arranged marriage didn't really work out. Maido later heard from Tobirama that the Uchiha clan had suddenly sent out invitations to the wedding of Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Sayo, instead of agreeing to an arranged marriage as part of the alliance. Not long after that, the Senju clan contacted the Uzumaki clan. Maido's father agreed to the alliance and to helping start and build this new shinobi village. He even gave the Senju clan permission to use the Uzumaki clan's spiral symbol as part of their village's name. But to make sure that the alliance lasts, an arranged marriage is part of it. Mido is going to be married to Senju Hashirama, which she didn't mind at all. Since then, it's been a little less than a year. Mido knew that she and Hashirama understood and respected each other, but Hashirama doesn't love her in a romantic way like she does. Mido feels bad about it, but she knew she couldn't do much about it. During their little less than a year of marriage, Hashirama does everything out of a sense of duty. Mido knew that he still has feelings for that Uchiha girl, who is now married to Uchiha Madara, the current head of the Uchiha clan and one of the 4 founding clans of Konoha no Sato. She knew that Hashirama liked the Uchiha girl, but for some strange reason, Mido can't bring herself to hate the girl, even though she has never met her. Mido is even more interested in the girl who has won her boyfriend's heart. She knew that in addition to Hashirama and Tobirama, Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Sayo had helped build the village's foundation, security, and ninja system. The Uchihas were mostly in charge of the security and ninja system, though, because Hashirama and Tobirama were busy making sure there were enough homes for everyone who would live in the new village. Hashirama was also working himself to the bone. He was using his Mokutan skills to build more houses and buildings than he could count, and the large forest that was being built around the village to protect it was also very hard on him. Senju ni Uzumaki Mido sighed as she lightly rubbed the small bump on her bulging stomach. The fabric of her cream-colored kimono was stretched slightly around her middle, showing that she is now about 3 months pregnant. The Senju clan was happy to hear that Mido was going to have the next Senju heir. The Senju matriarch was happy to hear from her attendant, who had been sent with her when she got married, that what she thought were bouts of morning sickness were actually the first signs of pregnancy. Hashirama was happy, too, but he didn't do much more than pay Mido the attention and care he owed her as her husband. So, Mido decided to meet the Uchiha girl who had been her rival in love, even though the Uchiha girl didn't want to meet her since she was also married at this point. But now that Mido is looking at a woman who should be her age or just a little bit younger, the Senju matriarch is wondering how the redhead Uchiha can still look like she is in her teens. A pretty complicated genjutsu, maybe. Mido walked into the weapons store with her attendant, who had been with her since she was a baby and had never left her side. The Uchiha matriarch, who was wearing a dark blue battle kimono with a black sash tied across her chest and a katana hanging on her back, raised an eyebrow when she saw her. But she quickly went back to what she was doing, which was looking at the kunais on the table in front of her while the shop owner told her something about them. Those kunais were a little different from the ones most shinobi use. They were a little bit bigger than most kunais, and the handles had wires wrapped around them. Were those special kunais meant to be used with some jutsu? Mido wondered if the Uchiha matriarch was taking on a student. Most Kunoichis stopped being ninjas when they married someone important, like the clan head of a powerful clan. But Uchiha Sayo had never stopped being a ninja, even though Mido knew that some of the Uchiha elders wanted her to stop being a ninja so she could do her duties as the wife of the clan head. Even Hashirama and Tobirama were busy with their own students now. They were teaching 3 children from a civilian village who were refugees and not much older than 9. If Mido remembers correctly, the unofficial leader of the 3 kids was a boy named Sarutobi Hijern who liked to get into trouble. The Uchiha matriarch asked Mido Haim in a cool voice, "Can I help you?" Mido was startled by the sudden voice, so she looked up. When she did, she looked right into the cool sapphire blue eyes of a woman who, despite how she looks, is only a little bit younger than she is. And this is another thing that made Mido notice Uchiha Sayo. She looks different from most of the other Uchihas in her clan, which is another thing that made Mido notice her. Even though people with red hair aren't very common in the Uchiha clan, people with blue eyes are. This is the first time Mido has seen a Uchiha with blue eyes. She had never seen Uchiha Sayo use her Daojutsu before, but there were rumors in the village that those who had seen her do it never lived to tell the tale. Most likely, her husband is the only person she used her Daojutsu on who is still alive. He is also the only person who could fight as well as she could. I was wondering if we could talk. Mido mumbled at too low a volume to be heard, but it was clear that Uchiha Sayo had very sharp and acute hearing, as her lips curled slightly in amusement. I had never really gotten to know you, but even though you are a Kunoichi, you are one of Konoha's most famous and talked about ninjas. Sayo thought, I guess it wouldn't hurt. We can talk while I get my supplies. The village is almost done being built. All that's left is for Hashirama to finish the forest on the western side of Konoha, near the waterfall, and for us 4 to decide what to do with the ninja system, the running of the village, and everything else. I also need to decide what weapons I'll be training my student with, she said, looking over a pair of kusarigamas and a pair of L. Mido cocked her head. You're a student? She questioned. I've never heard you had one. Sayo laughed. she told him. No, I just started teaching him about 2 weeks ago. He's a war orphan from one of those civilian militia villages in Western Fire Country that Tobirama picked up a month or 2 ago when he went there to recruit people for the village with Madara. That boy just came along with Tobirama and Madara, and I don't know, but he kind of reminds me of Madara himself, which is probably why I wanted to teach him. I see, Mito said slowly, with a soft smile. The Uchiha matriarch doesn't seem like such a bad person. Hashirama had his hands full with his own students, too. They're all monkeys. I've heard that, Sayo said with a smile. Tobirama was complaining about them the other day when Madara and I were having our usual Friday night drinking session. It's kind of fitting that you call them monkeys, since I've heard from Tobirama that brown-haired boy, I don't know what his name is now, but I think it's Hijern or something, got his hands on the monkey summon contract. Yeah, that boy has helped me a lot, Mito said as she rubbed her slightly swollen belly and thought about how naughty and playful Sarutobi Hijern had been. If he keeps going like this, he'll be a great father one day, and he'll also be a great ninja. I wouldn't be surprised if he became the next Hokage. Sayo bought some weapons from a store, and the owner of the store set them up for her before giving them to her. The redhead then turned to Mito. Sayo said, I still have a while before I have to go back to the village. Should we go and get some dango? Mito said, delicious, as he chewed on a dango stick outside the tea house. Sayo and Mito were sitting on a bench outside the tea house with a plate of dango and 2 cups of tea next to them. Sayo laughed as she chewed on her own stick of dango and said, the dango at this tea house is pretty well known. I used to come here all the time with Sana, she said. At that moment, a sad smile appeared on her face, and Mito stopped talking. She had heard the stories about Uchiha Sana's death and could understand why Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Sayo had never really trusted or liked Senju Hashirama. Mito then gave a small smile and rubbed her slightly swollen stomach while chewing on the stick of dango she held in her hand. It doesn't seem like a bad idea to try to get to know the Uchiha matriarch better by coming here. Unlike the other Uchihas, she seems like a nice person. She can see why the stoic and ice prince Uchiha Madara had loved her so much, and why even her own husband had his heart captured by this redhead. That made Mito sigh. She really can't bring herself to hate the redhead, for some strange reason, despite knowing that this redhead is her love rival. But as it is, she is already seen as lucky because her marriage worked out well, which isn't always the case for women in arranged marriages. How far are you along now? Asked Sayo suddenly, and Mito turned towards Sayo, rubbing her slightly bulging belly. Mito smiled gently to herself as she rubbed her abdomen. She said, it's been about 3 months. Sayo smiled and said, oh, I see. I'm looking forward to the birth. Whether it's a boy or a girl, all that matters is that the baby is healthy. Mito nodded to show that he agreed. Then she looked at Sayo. What about you? You and Madara-san have been married for about a year now, right? You're not going to try for a child of your own, are you? I know you're both busy, but you must want a child of your own. Sayo's face fell at that, and she was silent for a long time before answering. Even if we wanted to, we can't, she said as she looked down at the ground and grabbed the fabric around her stomach with her free hand. The Uchihas who got the ultimate Sharingan, the eternal Mangekyo, would be sterile. That's part of the price we have to pay for the power we get when we get the eternal Mangekyo. That is only half true, because the Uchihas who have learned how to use the eternal Mangekyo well are also immortal. And being immortal basically meant that time had stopped for their bodies, and that their bodies would also be barren. Sayo's wounds were still fresh, and Mito's face fell in horror. Sorry. Sayo cut Mito off by saying, don't be. She sighed and said, it wasn't your fault, and not many people know this anyway. It doesn't matter for me. Haru is like a son to me, and Madara and I have practically raised him. He's a sweet kid, always smiling. That's true. That night, in the bedroom of the house of the Uchiha clan head in the village of Konoha, as Sayo laid in Madara's warm embrace, with their clothes strewn about all over the place, feeling Madara's hand resting on her naked back, she snuggled into him. She said, Madara, and all he did in response was grunt. Have ... you ever thought of this issue ... of not having children? Before Madara spoke again, which was after a long time of silence, he buried his face in her hair. He asked, why is this happening all of a sudden? Sayo admitted, I was talking with Mito Haim this morning, and it made me think. It's true that we both knew what would happen if we both got the eternal Mangekyo. But, Madara said, Sayo. He pulled his face away from Sayo's hair and rolled over so that he was above her, holding her down by her shoulder blades. You know I don't care. I don't care if we can have children or not, and Haru is like a son to us anyway. Right now, you are the most important thing to me. And that is all that matters to me. Sayo had a weak laugh. Yeah, I guess it is just like you. The morning after, Hokage Tower, Sayo muttered. Okay, let's hurry up and get this over with, while rubbing her temples to get rid of a headache. Let's just decide on the village and ninja system in this one meeting, since we've been talking about it for too long. Tobirama sighed and then started to look at the papers in front of him. Well, we've pretty much decided how ninjas in the village are ranked and what must be taught at the ninja academy, he muttered as he looked over the papers. Madara frowned and asked, You mean the Jounin, Chunin, and Genin thing? Tobirama nodded. I don't have any problems with that. Sayo looked up at the other 3 people in the room and said, I also have a suggestion. In addition to the village ninja militia and the military police force, I think we should also set up a separate ninja defensive force that only answers to the Hokage. Hashirama made a face. A force for defense? He asked again. Sayo nodded. Yes, she answered, shuffling some papers. A separate group made up of only the best, the cream of the crop, whose members never show their faces in public unless they're off duty and wearing a ceramic mask or something. They'll also be known by their code names while they're serving in this special defensive force. Capture, assassination, sabotage, interrogation, and torture are just some of the things they'll be known for. I call it the Ansatsu Senjutsu, Konoha no Sado, country with a lot of fires. Nara Shikamaru walked up to the table where Neji and Sakura were sitting in the Fuinjutsu library of the Hokage Tower. He dumped another mountain of books onto the table, adding to the already huge pile there. Since the beginning of Konoha, I had been looking through old records about the Uchiha clan, Shikamaru said, picking up the top book and flipping through it as the other 2 watched. When I think about the records Sayo found and left behind before she disappeared, I can only come to a few conclusions. The lazy genius kept looking from Neji to Sakura and back again. Do you both remember the photo that Sakura showed us a few months ago? Neji asked with a frown, of the Uchiha clan heir back during the Shinobi clan wars. Shikamaru nodded. Yes, I do. So what? Shikamaru sighed. I did a lot of research on that girl in the picture that Sakura had pointed out, he said. And both Neji and Sakura listened carefully. That girl in the picture is one of the 4 people who made Konoha what it is today. She is also the original creator of the ninja training system, and the ANBU training system that is still used today. Because of her, Konoha's security is the tightest and hardest to break into in all 5 countries. Her name is Uchiha Sayo, he said. Silence. The description you can even hear a pin drop in the room seems rather fitting right about now, as Sayo. Madara and Tobirama stared at Senju Hashirama and what he had just proposed a while ago regarding the village council to assist the Hokage with the running of the village like he had just suddenly grown 2 new heads. Sayo coughed in her hand without making a sound. She asked him politely but sarcastically, Hashirama-san, have you ever hurt your head badly? Hashirama stared back at her with question marks almost floating above his head. Huh? Sayo sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose to ease her headache, while Tobirama and Madara had to fight to keep their lips from twitching with laughter. Okay, I'll make this as easy and less insulting as I can for you, she snapped. Let me put it this way. If you set up your council in this way, corruption will start to grow in it sooner or later. This will cause big problems for future generations and for the village a few years from now. Tobirama sighed and looked at his brother, who seemed a bit sheepish. He told her, You know, Nai-san, she's right. We already have enough problems with our clan council, especially the elders. I would rather not have to deal with similar problems with the village council. Hashirama muttered. Well, if you put it that way. He then cleared his throat and looked at the other 3. But still, we do need a ruling body to help and advise the Hokage with the ruling and running of the village. One person can only do so much. And while it is true that a corrupt Hokage is easier to assassinate, having a village council will put the people's minds at ease that they still have a voice to be heard through their representatives in the council. Sayo frowned before shuffling the papers on the table before her, and the other 3 watched her silently. They knew Sayo was better at this kind of thing than they were. There is a reason, a number of reasons why she's the village's best tactician, and also a reason why she is able to single-handedly take down the Raven's Gate organization nearly a year or so ago. Alright, I have a brief idea about the creation of this council, or as Tobirama had oh so graciously named it, the Council of Fire, said Sayo, and Tobirama blushed, scratching at his cheek idly. The clan heads of each major shinobi clan will be given a seat on the council. This means that only clans that are big enough to have a clan head will be given a seat. Madara nodded and said, All right. The 2 Senju brothers also nodded. Well, this is a village of shinobi, right? Hashirama made a face. What about the civilians then? Even if this is a shinobi village, we can't just cut the civilians off from the running of the village. Sayo sighed. She snapped, I'm not done talking yet. Hashirama cried out, and Tobirama laughed. For civilians, we'll bring in the civilian head doctor of the hospital, the civilian head instructor of the civilian academy, and the commander of the ANBU corps that I'm thinking of building. Keep in mind that this council's structure is meant to prevent corruption in the future. Better? I guess so, Hashirama said in a low voice. Tobirama nodded his head, agreeing with his brother. I don't disagree with it either, he said. The way you've set up this council might work, and it could also solve many of the problems we ninjas have. Civilians don't understand the way of the ninja, and it's not too far-fetched to say that most of them fear us, which isn't too surprising since we are killers. But a doctor is different. He sees the vulnerable side of a ninja, and he knows how to treat them. Madara looked up from the papers he was shuffling in front of him and said, I have an idea, too. Sayo, Hashirama, and Tobirama all looked at him. Sayo raised an eyebrow at that, and Hashirama and Tobirama looked at her with interest. All of us here have fought and lived through the shinobi clan wars. We know how terrifying and devastating wars can be, and how easily a life can be lost just like that. As shinobis, we usually live in the dark and strike our enemies from the shadows. But with this shinobi village, this means that shinobis will soon be coming out into the open. And from what I've heard from some of my clan's scouts Hashirama made a face. He asked, what do you want to say, Madara-san? Sayo thinks she has a good idea of what Madara is planning because she knows and understands him like the back of her hand. My idea is this, we build a separate branch of a NBU that answers to a separate leader, maybe one of the advisors of the Hokage, and the Council of Fire. Madara explained. This separate branch of a NBU will consist of the shinobis that works from the shadows, doing all the dirty as well as unspeakable jobs that most ninjas will never speak about, even though all of us admit that it is needed. After all, there are shinobis who work in the sun, but there are also those that are required to work in the shadows, in darkness. If we look at it like a tree, then those who work in the sun are the leaves, whilst those that work in the darkness are the roots. It is necessary for the survival of the village. And if one of the shinobis who worked from the darkness is ever caught by an enemy, the village can just pretend that that particular shinobi isn't from the village. It is a typical tactic, one that we used even back during the time of the shinobi clan wars. Hashirama nodded slowly. You're right about that, he said slowly. We need it if we're going to build a village, he said, then looked at the two uchihas. And since Sayo is in charge of starting the ANBU and training the shinobi who will join it, and since she is going to be their first leader and design the village security system, are you going to? Madara nodded. He said, yeah, I'll take care of this separate ANBU branch. I'll probably train the first generation of shinobi in this new ANBU unit myself, and then choose one of my students to lead them. It's a thankless job, but someone has to do it. Your student? You mean the kid you and Sayo have been training together? Tobirama was surprised. Hijun told me about that kid. He seems pretty quiet, but he could also be pretty ruthless. He's smart and has a sharp mind, which are traits of a real shinobi, if you ask me. Sayo nodded to show that she agreed. Shimura Danzo. Alright, this meeting is almost over, Hashirama said with a sigh of relief. That just leaves one more thing. What is it? Hashirama shifted uncomfortably on his feet for a few moments, which made Tobirama, Sayo, and Madara raise their eyebrows because they had worked with Senju Hashirama long enough to know that this is what he does when he is nervous or worried. Hashirama finally said, it's about the bijus, and everyone's eyes widened just a little bit. The chakra monsters are 9 of the most powerful demons in Makai, the demon realm. You know that with my Mokyuten Jutsu powers, I can control and suppress their power. During the Shinobi clan wars, I've met 8 of them, the one-tailed through the 8-tailed bijus. I was thinking that as a sign of goodwill, we should give some of those tailed bijus, which are weapons of mass destruction. After that, there was a very long pause. Sayo finally frowned and said, I don't agree. Madara and Tobirama both agreed. The bijus are chakra monsters, beings and weapons of mass destruction. No human can kill them, and even with my level of seal mastery, the best I can do is seal them away for all time. Even the one-tailed biju can do a lot of damage. What would happen if you gave those chakra monsters to the other shinobi villages? We are shinobis, and this is a ninja village. Tobirama sighed. Nyai-san, it's not that I don't understand your desire to keep peace among the 5 great nations, since we've been fighting since before I can remember. But giving a biju to a rival country and village is like giving them a living time bomb. You don't even know what might happen in the future. We'll come to it when the time comes, said Hashirama stubbornly. Also, if they tried to do anything with those bijus, I could always take away their power or even control them. And once you're gone, Madara asked sharply. You know that nothing can live forever, and that includes you. You won't be around forever. What will happen if they use a Biju or even a Biju's vessel, which, woe betide, is a human vessel, against us? What will happen? Hashirama said. We'll talk about it when the time is right. Tomorrow, I'll start sending the Bijus to the other shinobi who are building villages. Sayo stood up from behind the table with her hands flat on the table and an angry look in her eyes after a long period of silence. It looks like this meeting is over, she said, her usually calm voice tinged with anger. I'll see to the security and the ANBU formation of the village. And about the Biju issue, do as you wish, Hokage-sama. After all, who am I to doubt and to question the word of the great and beloved Hokage of our village? She stated sarcastically, and Hashirama winced at that. You can do whatever you want with the Bijus, but I still think it's a huge mistake. Konoha no Sado, country with a lot of fires, Sekira asked with a frown. Time travel. At the moment, 3 heads were crowded around a rather thick and large book in the Fuinjutsu library of the Hokage Tower. Nara Shikamaru was holding the book. Sekira had no idea what the seals on the page meant and could feel her head starting to hurt. Sayo and Shikamaru are the only known seal experts in Konoha now that Jiraiya-sama is dead. Sayo is a level above Shikamaru in terms of sealing ability, though. Yeah, said Shikamaru with a nod, jabbing his index finger at a page. From what we've found and learned, I've come to the conclusion that Sayo probably went back in time, whether on purpose or by accident. And based on what Tsunade-sama told us almost a year ago, or was it 2 years ago? Troublesome. Who cares? Anyway, like I'm saying, it was probably this doujutsu of hers that allowed her to do such a thing. Neji frowned. He asked Shikamaru, what are you trying to say? Shikamaru sighed. Difficult, he whined. My sealing ability and level isn't quite up to Sayo's level as she is a seals master, and she had been trained by Jiraiya-sama after all. But I am still proficient enough with seals to do some advanced sealing. I came across this seal diagram when I was looking through Sayo's sealing notes. The brunette pulled out a notebook and opened it only to reveal that it is filled with page after page of sealing notes, and diagrams which neither Sakura nor Neji could make head or tail of. Shikamaru poked a strange-looking seal with his index finger. It looked like a type of seal Sakura had only seen once in one of her Kenjutsu classes when she was studying for her medic mastery. This is a highly advanced and yet difficult to perform seal that enables one to go back through time. I don't know why Sayo had been looking through such a thing, but I think that it probably has something to do with Jiraiya-sama. She wants to bring back her teacher, Sakura whispered, her heart clenching painfully as she thought about the pain, torment, and agony that her teammate had gone through when Jiraiya-sama died. Yeah, probably, Shikamaru said with a sigh. He knew to some extent how Sayo felt because he had felt the same way when Asuma had died. But he always had a family to help him through this, while Sayo never did. Jiraiya-sama is probably the closest thing she had to a parent or a father, which is probably why she was so interested in seals. I can probably perform this seal, but that's a big if. Even so, with my level of sealing ability, I can only send us back about 6 years. Shikamaru looked from Neji to Sakura and back again, his face unusually serious. During Neji's last year at the academy, and when we were in a class below him. If we succeed, we can change a lot of things and save a lot of people who have died. But most importantly, we can help Sayo and maybe even find her. I'm not sure if I can actually succeed, but if it's someone with Sayo's ability, she can easily send us back to any time in the past. But as it is, even the best that I can do. Don't worry, Shikamaru, Neji said to calm him down. He looked at the 2 people in front of him and said, it'll be fine. We'll just do what we have to do. Let's go back to when we took our genin exams. Then we might be able to find Sayo.
I will continue this story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.